I got both teams ready.
Hear that, Whiskey? Both teams are R. Let me get my stat sheet back up here.
Ooh.
One of the more regular maps, no clubhouse, no chalet. It seems almost impossible to get a best of 3 or a best of 5 that doesn't at least have one of those maps. But I mean, I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see Cafe, especially. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love Cafe.
It is a pretty interesting map to see, and one that I have also have a fun view of, just because of some things that I've seen on it. But we do have everyone in the lobby, and we do have a game to start, so might as well get going now before we have any further delays. So we could go ahead and send that over, start things up in just a quick second. So after we see this lovely cinematic finish playing, we're going to get to see the game, which, as you mentioned, is going to be Bank starting us off. So we'll kind of see which team is able to take things first here. Is, like you said, it's a little bit of a bigger map. It is a map that typically does require more coordination.
Not gonna have looks like maybe slightly more delays, as it always goes. Oh, maybe we're in. We'll figure it out. It always does get figured out eventually. I mean, we know that we're going to Bank, potentially going to do some operator bans, but it looks like not everyone is actually in the lobby. Maybe someone ended up leaving. You know how these things go.
The good old circus that production is. We're not exactly sure what is happening on our end. Looks like the team is might be doing bans anyway, so we'll kind of see how that is looking.
Well, I
See a
think they can
Monty.
get away doing the bans. They don't need everyone
Yeah.
necessarily in there. They can still talk as a team, decide on the bans, and then get everyone in. So hopefully we'll see if they can get all of the bans done. Monty and Grim being the first two to get taken off. Monty, very understandable for Bank. There's just so many situations in which a Monty can brute force a lot of choke holds or a lot of choke points, I should say. So very understandable to get that shield off the board.
Cade being the first defender ban coming out of X Envy here. Could be kind of a terrorist on those hatches, just making it very difficult to get open, especially with Tubero on the board. Zombie as well makes a lot of positions much easier to hold than they would otherwise be. So it does make sense to kind of bring her out, or ban her out, I should say. Looks like we're gonna send things over to just a quick break though, while we get the lobby set back up and make sure everything is set in place. So we will be back momentarily. some tomfoolery happening in the lobby, but we did get to see the bans happen. We are back now, actually preparing to cast the first round of this game. For those of you who are just getting here, the bans are Monty, Grim, Cade, and Azami. There's nothing really out of the ordinary for a map that is a little bit out of the ordinary, seeing as it's not one of the kind of default maps that you usually expect to see.
Yeah, no, definitely not one of the ones, especially for like the first one that you'd expect to see, but it is where we are, and so we're going to see if they're going to have any sort of extended defenses as immediately TSG Black, who are on the defense. You can see they're putting up some defense on the upper floors. They're going to have to hold on to these to delay a lot of time, as basement here is a bit of a bunker, so it is hard to get into, but once you're
10
in
seconds
basement,
remaining.
there isn't much area to go. You can't get the flank super easily, so you need to obtain
5
or
seconds
maintain
remaining.
control of first floor and of second floor.
Gamma
if you
ready
still
to
wanna have a winning
Attacker's
game.
objective is to locate a bomb and
Opened
defuse
up
it.
and-
Deploying jammer.
As I talked about him, he gets that open flash. Take that Scopos off the board. Up as a camera, when we'll be able to move around it all, making it essentially
It's a pretty big opening hit. Not be followed up immediately by any quick trade, so that's a great way for him to start things off. The roam players really
get a double kill for Recited as the request off of this first floor. There's a player inside of open area with Recited. He's going to take that fight and win it too. Everything is popping the next enemy in the kill.
Loading mag!
Go to this final minute in 30 seconds. Everything.
He finds one there, so that at least makes it round can be as time for the attackers to figure out what they want to do, and they have plenty of
Attackers have located a bomb.
tracks are coming out, logic bombs are being dropped. It is a bad situation for these defenders, as they don't have much safe spaces here, and they for sure are being tracked down. And I like what Envy is doing. They're using their resources. They're not going to rush in. They're not going to meet the business end of a gun. They're going to use the ability they can and find kills just like that.
Attackers have dropped the bomb.
Yeah, I mean, it looked excellent. I think they handled the first floor hold that TSG Black was using. They handled it excellently. They just went in there. They were aggressive, but they had clearly enough information. I mean, they were bringing a lot of information ops for their credit, so that explains why they're able to go in so confidently and just find those.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
And they really and in a situation like that, if you're TSG Black, you lose that opening engagement.
Attackers have discovered the location of a bomb.
Setting a mine.
Huddle up down there. Envy did not let that happen. They shut off those rotates, killed them all. There's only 2 people in the whole base.
Wall secured!
We saw things starting off there, but if the plan is to start off, I mean, if you have Recited running at you and winning all of those
10 seconds left.
very bad. We're seeing another roll come
Laser
out
gate in
for
position.
5 seconds to go.
quite differently. Things like shotgun,
Attacker's objective is to defuse a bomb.
now that we're building and information on the side of the line, and still needed into that information.
Activating drone.
Aim of more than
Narrow escape, good instinct though from Kira to anticipate someone also
is going down.
Stay alive longer, let the enemy
Clamp mine deployed.
and then you have as many resources, as many bodies when it comes to the actual execute. And so they're doing a really good job of keeping themselves alive, but as we get into this last minute, we are going to see the 5 players on both teams.
As my friend would say, time to make a new door.
Minute 10 seconds left. Flanks being held. Hatches being open. Utility being worked. So that was the ball here from X and B as they want to
Getting
get
us
in.
ready. They're clutching in a net. I'm reloading.
Being thrown his way from that Dechant playing. They need to get a cutoff so they can prevent this. Kira's going to start that off, killing off Rock. So that's the first option.
Changing mag!
TSG yet again. 4 versus 1. Slash stuck all the way inside of gold. He's going to start taking his fights, trying to poke his head out, but no one's giving him an easy
Attackers
fight.
activating diffuser.
Goes down as well. Damos tracked out. Everything falling on him at once. You know exactly what it is, and they're just keeping him inside of this box.
Changing mag!
Frag grenade out.
Well, that's like they're just like only heads. But 27 seconds left to get this done. Not even anymore. As he puts his head out, he has to take a risk. All he decided is better in that gunfight. It's NV up 2-0.
I was just talking about TSG Black and how they're doing a better job not losing in the opening engagement, but you have to find a Goldilocks zone between being active and being passive, and unfortunately for TSG Black, they went the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and they were far too passive. They gave up all that map control, let XMB get all the positions they needed from garage, from multiple hatches, let them establish all of the
Defenders, protect your bombs from being
and
defused by attackers.
And so when push came to shove and TSG Black was moving around a little bit, they quickly found out that every single spot on the map was every single spot on site was essentially visible to one or the other. You have to have a good balance between not dying too early on or knowing when to fall back, but also being able to waste enough time and resources that it doesn't absolutely obliterate your ability to survive on site.
Side switch up has been prompted from TSG Black. You're gonna go open area this time.
New camera feed activated.
10 seconds left before insertion.
This is being placed on vertical play.
Reinforcing wall.
5 seconds to insertion.
Actually, yeah, so we're gonna see the block being brought out by
Bomb located by attackers. Attackers are moving to defuse a bomb.
Excited as well with that activity.
Camera feed up and running.
Forge with his scanner. As we look to see Envy take this top and then work that
Not my price.
fight, and then eventually
Secured.
first top and one
IED active. If it runs on batteries, I see it.
is going to be underneath that stock hatch in the corner.
It's going to be using these windows that make Bank one of the more slightly attacker-sided maps. There's a lot of areas in which attackers can kind of poke in and get little bits of information or destroy little bits of gadgets just through those windows. Also right here, you can see Boots is sneaking in, and I'm not sure if they are aware that he's down here. He could potentially find out some defenders who are roaming on the first floor, so that could be pretty big. He has those logicons, so actually he's still bringing a lot of that information technology when it comes to their operator lineup. It's actually really big in what could be a gunfight coming up.
He's going to be skulking his way towards tellers. It looks like here in his position they are. He gets the first on the slash and the second as well. The fight here going to tag out with oh, going to get one back along with Roxo. Kills flying left and right. But Envy, they find themselves on top of 3-1 in man count. Everything's left up to Roxo, hiding inside of open area, just trying to see if anyone will overexpose themselves. Build this position, they know where he is. And now all they have to do is get into the site and collapse onto his position. Looks like we're getting to that with that flashbang down and the drone as well. They know where he is, they're trying to utility him as much as they can to disillusion him. And now the diffuser gonna start going down as he looks for Bob to weave around the cover he has, but Owen gets the better of him in that gunfight. As yet again, TSG fails to find the execution.
It's a familiar sight there at the end of the round, as it is another 1vx for the members of TSG Black, as they just can't seem to hold on to any of their man count. I mean, they just are slipping away at every single instance, and this could just be an example of XEnvy having a really well thought out attack, using information, time, as well as just being spread out just enough to kind of have all of their different positions and all of these different rotates covered. But at the same time, it also just feels like TSG Black aren't playing with nearly as much conviction, or it doesn't seem to be as deliberate. When I'm looking at a lot of these plays, I see a lot of standard stuff for Bank, but I'm not seeing any sort of meaningful counters to what XEnvy is bringing. I mean, we haven't had much information denial. There's been no Mozzie or Mute, despite that both of those operators are on the board and available. And information has been such a key part of how XEnvy has been dissecting TSG Black here. Deny the information, and you deny XEnvy's trump card right now.
10 seconds to insertion.
The fact that they banned out the Asami as well is also eating at TSG Black, I feel. As she is such a good operator for just reinforcing and holding on to positions.
Locate a bomb.
And they've been struggling to do that this entire game so far. Now, it's only 3 rounds, and a lot can change in the next 3 rounds of this half. And a lot more will change once TSG is on the attack. But speaking of attack, Recited goes on that position, takes out Geek to Freak right off the board. And the Asami's not the operator you want to lose first. That's so much utility that's going to be left on the cutting room floor here. Another gunfight here goes the way of Tox, however, as he's going to get an immediate refrag onto Boots. And that's that lethal lurk that we've seen XEnvy lean into being taken out immediately.
That's also just what one of the only times that we've seen an early engagement get immediately answered back by TSG, as they've managed to keep things equal, and that's going to stall out XEnvy. XEnvy aren't going to be able to so confidently walk in, and Tox on for another one finds Kiryu. So all of a sudden, TSG Black have man count advantage for the first time in what feels like maybe the whole game. It looks like they could be in a position to win the round, but much like the whole game itself, as you said, it's still early on. A lot can happen, and TSG Black should do everything but get complacent here.
Poseidon gonna get a refrag onto Tox. No more lethality down below. That is going to alert them that the attack is going to be a little bit spread out here, which is going to prompt one of the last defender to fall back to the site, as Owen and Koshi, they're going to work outside of stock here, try to get that open as much as they can. And then Recited can try to hit something later on in the round as things start to ramp up.
Well, this is certainly TSG Black's best looking match or round so far, as they do seem to be hitting that Goldilocks zone I was talking about of being active but knowing when to all fall back. But once again, there's still over a minute left, and the execute has yet to happen. So XEnvy do have time to kind of get their ducks in a row and really make sure they have everything they need for a successful execute here. They just don't have as much information as they normally would. As you can see, both Deimos has been taken off the board. They don't have a Dokkaebi or a Lion this time. So it's really all going to come down to either the gunplay or the more execute-focused utility they have. No information stuff.
Seeing Capital being used immediately here. Roxo, though, going to take that off the board. Gets one up to Recited as well. All left up to Koshi, who's currently tucked up on the roof in this 1 versus 3. He has 3 players to find, all inside of the site. Doc as well, making sure that there's no potential HP advantages that Koshi could have inside of these gunfights. So he has 20 seconds left to try to figure this out. 20 seconds left to get into the building and find these fights, but they're not giving him an easy answer here. They're forcing him to walk in and take gunfights on their turf. So he finally looks to do that, creeping his way inside of Janitor Hall. Scarpin gets that final pick as TSG finally have the answer they were looking for.
And it comes off of what I think were some fairly thoughtful changes. They didn't necessarily bring the information denial that I was talking about, but they took an approach of fighting fire with fire, because they brought Valkyrie and Echo. They brought their own cameras and decided, if the enemy are going to be bringing all of these different information gadgets to figure out where we are, why don't we figure out where they are? And that's exactly what they did when they had Tox on that lurk below. He was 100% being supported by these cameras, by Echo. He knew where was safe, where enemies maybe were. He knew how to position himself and make best use of that information, and it worked out really well, because he managed to get a pick downstairs that really took kind of the wind out of XEnvy's sails, and it ultimately took a lot of time away. XEnvy didn't have as much time as they probably would have liked to mount a proper execute, and I think
that was a great move and a great bit of adaptation coming from TSG. And I hope to see some more competitive implementations of stuff like that in this next round as well.
Camera feed up and running.
Gone down to
10
the basement
seconds
here,
remaining.
which is a site that Envy are more than comfortable attacking thus far
5
into
seconds
this
to
game.
insertion.
And it looks like we're going to see about the same as we
Attackers'
have
objective is to
before, although
defuse
we
the
do have
bomb.
Versailles playing an Osa this time. Which does mean that I anticipate something pretty blue-focused here, with maybe some players pressuring offside as well, just to make sure that TSG Black aren't fully comfortable just looking over at blue. And there isn't as much execute denial utility as you would expect for a basement site. We do have nitro cells on all 5 of these operators,
Attackers have dropped the
but
bomb.
those are
Deploy
something that
battery.
are
Cover the
not
diffuser.
trivial to burn, but certainly possible to burn quite effectively. Especially with Osa on the board.
Need this one back.
You can see that double Osa strat where they have one shield essentially a bit closer that almost always gets exploded by some bit of enemy utility, and then the second shield setup for safety. This is a pretty typical strat I've seen with Osa plenty of times, so I'm sure TSG know, at least intellectually, they understand how to counter it. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to do it in action, because if they lose one of those C4s, if it gets popped mid-throw, you know, that's a big loss, as that Osa shield just provides so much information. It can be so lethal right now. And so XEnvy just kind of taking their time. They're getting things open. This is looking to be a slightly slower round, as it doesn't look like TSG Black also want to peek this. They can see exactly what sort of things are going on here.
With how the picks have been going these past 4 rounds, makes sense that TSG Black are a little bit cautious. Versailles is inside of the bomb site though, and planting. The first C4 goes out from scarping to get that pick.
Attackers
Because
recover
now
the
with
bomb
just
diffuser.
under half the round left to go, they're just gonna keep switching out who holds the diffuser on the side of TSG Black, because they know there's very limited time that Envy have to work with here. Second plant attempt, going down from Owen, second C4 goes out. Doesn't get anything. But now, we're gonna switch things out again, as it looks like we're gonna see Tox on the board next to throw his out. As TSG Black, they're looking to be in a good spot here, but we need to see Envy try to find some way to counter this utility usage.
XEnvy, you're playing a very familiar strategy. Everyone does this sort of strategy. Are you going to make it work? Well, the C4 does get shot out, so that's huge because it allows the diffuser to go down. XEnvy still lacking in man advantage, but now with their shields, one of them gone, but the other shield's still up, they can hold on to diffuser if they can find the picks. That's one for Koshi onto Geek, and that could be exactly what they need to win this.
4 versus 4 now, 4 versus 3 now, as Owen gets 1. They have the coverage they need. There is a flank coming out from Slash, but they're going to be aware of it now with that pick onto Boots. As you see Kira looking to fight it head on, but he gets killed off. Everything, though, left up to Slash on this blue hatch. Both attackers know where he is, but he gets Owen. He only needs to find one more, but he doesn't have time to get the diffuser here as Koshi gets that last pick as well. As TSG Black looked like they hit their stride, but Envy takes it right back.
That was kind of a fine line that Envy was walking there, where they weren't really bringing anything new to that strategy. They had the walls opened up like anyone else normally does. They had the Osa shields in a very similar situation, and TSG Black was responding in kind with the standard approach of, well, you hang out of the mirror window, you throw a C4 when the plant is initiated. It just kind of came down to whether or not those C4s were actually able to survive long enough to be detonated, because if you remember, TSG got their opening pick with the C4, but the rest of them were all shot out just in time, and that gave them just enough time for the plant. I mean, really, that whole strategy that XEnvy brought is you sacrifice a lot of utility, you sacrifice a lot of time, you maybe lose a body, but it's all about getting the plant down, because once you have the plant down, your post-plant positions are so strong, and they played it flawlessly there.
We're going to see all 4 sites be brought out by TSG in this first half, as they've elected to go with Tellers and Archives here for round 6. Which I think is a change that makes sense. You do need to change out something with how these rounds have been going. But given the fact that TSG have been unable to stop the adaptive gameplay from XEnvy, and also the fact that we're seeing things like that gridlock and that milk being brought out, I'd wager that Envy has some sort of plan here, which Kiru could look to execute by just walking in, but Geek, he's prepared for it. He's gonna get that pick, which is going to surrender the diffuser in the middle square.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Look who they're bringing. Look who I said they should bring. It's Mute, and Mute gonna get found out. He heard the jammer being placed. It's just unfortunate. Didn't actually see Mute, just heard him, so didn't know exactly where to shoot. Did manage to tag him, but it wasn't an easy kill. But meanwhile, Slash, still lurking around, does manage to get one pick. So that's another great bit of fragging out for TSG, who look to take an early lead in this match.
So far, this round is going their way. So, on a lurk in by Tellers. He's going to get a pick onto Roxo here. We'll look to see if he can catch anything else. Koshi as well, tucked inside of that electrical closet. Looking to see if someone will expose themselves to that open barricade over by the site. Diffuser left unclaimed, sitting at the top of these stairs as Owen lurks his way up. As now it looks like the general game plan from TSG is just to poke, or from Envy, excuse me, is just to poke and Braz who expose themselves. But so far it's only Envy that are exposing themselves, as another pick goes their way, or goes the way of their opponents. As now it's all left up to Koshi and Owen. Koshi starts it off by getting one. Owen heads up to that top floor, as they just need enough mistakes to be committed by TSG.
Not a huge amount of time here, but certainly enough to make something work. They use their utility correctly. They can isolate off areas, and that's a huge pick as Owen finds Tox. They have things opened up. Slash, though, unfortunately finds Owen, so that's going to leave it up to just Koshi here to find the two remaining defenders. One of them on the second floor, one of them down here on the first floor with Koshi. They're both full health. This is going to be a tough fight. He doesn't have diffuser in pocket, and it's really just going to come down to getting these engagements. Actually, both of them are up on the second floor, so he's going to have to find both of these players and win out these fights.
The defenders have control of the diffuser. He has to win these fights if he wants to win this round. And he's alerted them to his position, poking and prodding around this cover at the top of the marble stairway. As one defender poking their elbow out, not giving him the gunfight that he wants though. Both of them are prepared to swing on this cross as soon as he makes a move.
10 seconds to go.
He's gonna look to walk up, try to kill this player instead of meeting, but Slash doesn't expect the prone angle as he gets that pick. And TSG Black secure their second round of this half.
Well, we hit the side swap, so TSG Black are going to test their mettle as attackers here. We're going to see what sort of coordination, how good their executes are looking, and we're going to see how good X-Envy are able to stand up to it. Going into those next rounds, obviously I'm going to favor X-Envy, but it's also, when I look at the rounds that TSG won, especially this most recent one, that didn't feel like as much of a round that TSG was dominantly taking, and more one that X-Envy had a strat. They walked in with that Nook, and it just didn't go their way. I think that Nook just got caught off guard, and so that's part of your strat, just immediately getting wiped right off the table. It didn't feel specifically strategic from what TSG did, not to take anything away from getting that kill. I mean, it was a completely earned kill. It just didn't feel like there was this very specific hard counter that TSG produced there in order to make sure that they were ready for the strats X-Envy was bringing. It just sort of happened. They managed to get that gunfight win, and that gifted them kind of that man advantage to trade out until the end of that round where it was a 1v2.
5 seconds remaining.
Seeing this basement bomb site being brought out yet again. We've seen a lot of it so far. It's being played in half of TSG's defensive rounds, and so far all of Envy's defensive rounds. As we see a pretty similar information setup from TSG Black, although notably they have both the Capit out and the Ying, and that gives them a lot of utility to work with when they actually look to go for this execute. Although we do see some counters in things like the Goyo and Smoke and Aruni from the defense here, which is going to give them a lot of room to play with as well. As TSG Black just look to get some preliminary research done on the outer edges of this map and figure out where these defenders are.
I think we want to give a shout out to Fett. Thank you for that raid. Lots of people coming in. Best player in the world, some may say. I am one of those people. Best player in the world. Thank you, Fett. You can see that Recited gets a C4 pick to even things out. So it's 4v4, and he finds another one as he baits Tox down the stairs. So that's a good couple kills there for Envy as they now they trade back and then take man advantage, leaving TSG with just 3 people here, but still plenty of time.
Brissett has been very good at just grabbing a pick here and there whenever Envy need them to either secure or maintain a man advantage, or even just maintain mana quality. That's a very good quality to have, and part of the reason he did so well with fluffy aimers. But Kiru here, he's getting adventurous on this top floor, taking a fight with the flank watch. He gets that pick on the Scarping, and then immediately falls back to the site. As now, TSG Black, all they have left is Slash and Roxo. And a minute 20 seconds left to try to work their way into the site and finally gain some ground.
Absolutely huge pick there coming from Kiru to walk all the way up and find that. A 3v4 is still difficult to win, but it's possible. A 2v4, you're essentially relying on XNV throwing in some way. And of course that can still happen, but you know, you don't want your fate to be left in your opponent's hands. You want to be able to take those rounds on your own terms, not waiting for them to throw. And it's just going to be so much more difficult for TSG Black to be able to do what they want here, as they just don't have that much utility right now. They do have Capitao, so that's a decent amount, but this late in the game, an IQ is going to be the most helpful, so it's really just going to come down to whether or not that Capitao can make anything happen, and then the throws, of course, from XNV if they peak when they shouldn't.
Go canisters being utilized here along with those smoke babes. As there's only 30 seconds left, you can just throw all three of them continuously. We're gonna see a hatch drop here off of these smokes. Slash gets one with a frag grenade, but Recited has that refrag as we see the last creep deep into the site, but Boots has that pick instead, as TSG just can't find any answers to this aggression from XNV.
Yeah, XNV just looks so dynamic. I mean, any situation you're handing them, they know very instinctively, okay, I'm going to push forward now, or I'm going to initiate like a flank or a roam, and they're always just reading it almost perfectly, and they're finding the situations where they can catch TSG with their pants down and punish them for it. And it just means that, be it on attack or defense, they are just constantly on all sides of TSG, and TSG just don't seem to know how to isolate those fights or how to take a fight without getting traded out. They don't seem to be able to control any of these rounds and are just hoping for XNV to make mistakes in order for them to win.
Is that a really good strategy when you have people like Kiru who run Elements 2 along with Recited, who I've talked about quite a bit because he was instrumental in that Fluffy Aimers run instead of Wild Curve restart. These aren't players that are going to make mistakes. They're not just going to hand you any easy rounds or even really hand you difficult rounds. You have to be able to take things into your own hands and meet them at the doorstep. And so far, TSG Black has been struggling. If I recall as well, this is TSG Black's map pick. This is where they wanted to go. And so far, Envy have looked infinitely more proficient on it than they have.
Absolutely. Envy just look actually like pretty terrific. I've really enjoyed watching them play. They seem super coordinated, and everything they're doing just screams like they've practiced this before, or that these players are just super knowledgeable and work really well together. TSG Black, it obviously looks like they need to do some, I think, going back to the drawing board, maybe some new strats here, but they are bringing out some new operators, so hopefully they're cooking here. We are seeing Cali come out to once again go on those windows that I talked about. That can be a really big resource for the attackers. Hang out on those windows, cut off lines of sight, cut off rotates. You can do so much all from outside the building.
You see some bandit tricking on that Cantor Ketty wall, as they're just going to look to keep that line of sight closed as much as they can, especially with the Cali on the board, who really just don't want to give that sort of long sight angle unless someone on Envy is feeling particularly brave. And he is actually just going to keep the entire thing up, even while using a Capitao bolt. Trade goes out, and that's the Cali taken out almost immediately here. As now, we're going to see Envy not have to worry about those long angles nearly as much. Canto wall is opened up, but no one's actively holding it at the time, or at this current point in time. As now, minute 30 seconds left here for TSG Black to continue working the map. And I'm unsure of what they're trying to go for at this point in time. It doesn't look like there's a concrete idea they're trying to work from, as they've tried to do a lot, but they haven't really taken much.
Yeah, once again, it just sort of seems that they're waiting for an opening to be gifted to them. Their attempts to force an opening just haven't been really working. You see, Recited has found his own opening. He's going to sneak up. He's now in lone office. He could potentially run all over that lobby. He's just looking for anyone on these windows, of which right now Roxo is still working, but does seem aware that someone is maybe lurking. He has pings coming out, so clearly there's a drone there. And even if Recited doesn't get a kill here, this strategy of just laying in Lone Office, baiting them out, he wasted so much time. He forced Scarping to come all the way around over there, and now they have 35 seconds to first get in the building, much less take site. I don't know if it's possible.
They do have the numbers advantage to work with. Never mind, Koshi. He's getting a beautiful shot onto Tox. As now, it's going to be a walk up the banana staircase through the barbed wire. But the defenders are aware of these positions. But Geek, though, he has the position to take out Owen, as it's going to be left up to largely BLITZ to take out these last two attackers as they all fall in at once. How is it going like this? It all goes down in the final seconds as TSG somehow managed to find their way into a round win.
Absolutely stunned, and I think even the chat is sort of reflecting that, lighting up after that. I mean, TSG in no way should be winning that map, but as we've been talking about, the game that TSG is playing is waiting for XEnvy to make mistakes, and even if XEnvy are quite good, because they are, and these are experienced players, not even the best of the best players can play a whole game of Siege without making some mistakes. So every once in a while, TSG will be gifted those rounds, and that was a pretty big gift there, but it's just not something that they can consistently rely on. I still think I liked what I was seeing from Envy more. I liked how they were wasting time. I liked how they pretty much were able to just stay steadfast in their positions regardless of what TSG was throwing at them. It just came, I think, when that execute was actually going down in that last 10 to 15 seconds there, Envy didn't seem to know where people were coming from and were just looking around. They just were peeking around angles and were just not looking like they had looked 3 feet more to the left or the right. They would have seen the attacker kind of swinging around a hill. They just kind of got a little unlucky with how they were peeking there too, and they lost that out. But I mean, TSG took advantage when they saw that mistake being made by Envy, and they, you know, got another round for it. So kudos to them.
We'll see if that success they're able to replicate. As we go to open area now, and XEnvy are just going through the entire site rotation.
Reload!
And that's going to prompt some more, not vertical play operators necessarily, but some more operators to just take and hold that top floor. I like the pick of the Finka here from TSG Black, 'cause it's something we saw them try to lean into a lot on defense, was that dock just to get people back up, but now we're seeing that same thing be brought out on attack. Plus that LMG can be quite lethal inside of gunfights, and that's exactly what you want when you're trying to take on XEnvy in positions like these.
You can see they're using some drones too. TSG bringing a lot of information as they have both Lion as well as Brava here. So that's a couple extra drones that they can use to also not just hack devices, but you know, it's simply extra drones, which is still huge, and that can provide a ton of utility. Right now, they're taking things slow, really trying to track down and pinpoint every single one of these defenders, because they know that Envy love to lurk. They know that Envy love to move around and will not just play sit and stay.
A lot of good information being gained by Scarping here as we start to see breach charges being placed by Tox. There aren't really any Val cameras on the top floor anymore, so information gonna be few and far between for the defenders here. Tox, though, he gets it down onto the Valkyrie. That's Kiru on the ground, and then finally finished off. But no, it's actually Picard Owen that happens here. As TSG, they start to gain the numbers advantage early on here yet again, as they're looking to collapse onto the site. Recited is going to fall as well. BLITZ gets a refrag, though, on the Scarping. It's the first of 4 that they'll need, but this is an extremely awkward position for the defense to be in, especially with that pick on Koshi. It's all left up to Boots here, sitting inside of Kitchen. Gonna look to walk in the square, see if he can find anything, but he doesn't even get one, as Slash has the answer in that fight, and TSG start bringing the gap ever closer.
And that's TSG showing us why they have the exact same points as Envy. I mean, they are a very capable team, and that round looked excellent. I mean, their information game was spot on. They didn't take too long, but they weren't rushing in. They had every single room that they were going to go occupy completely cleared out. They knew the angles, and they knew where the defenders were, and they were able to pinch things off perfectly. They moved super efficient. They looked like a well-oiled machine there. That was the first time where it truly felt like they were matching the sort of aggressive yet very thoughtful tactics we were seeing XEnvy bring for pretty much most of this game. And look, they managed. TSG Black got lucky a few times. I think there's a few rounds that maybe it was more of an Envy throw, but they have a decisive round there. They take it. We are now at a 1-point game when it looked like for a little bit Envy was just going to kind of walk away with this match really nice and easy. But TSG Black are here to at least make it competitive.
10 seconds left before
I'm interested to see how the rest of this game is going to go. This is TSG's map pick, as we have discussed, and in these last couple rounds, they have shown why, as they've shown a lot of comfortability on it. But I want to see how Envy look to adapt here, and especially if a tactical timeout is called. As I know the TSG Black have a coach in Dirty, but I'm not sure if Envy have one. And it's always interesting to see how those coaches can have an impact on things start going haywire. I also want to see what Slash is going to do here, as he is looking like he wants to try to walk in through Garage on that Nook and just see what sort of challenges he can get, while the rest of his teammates look to work up this top floor and see what rounds of pick they can find, as Owen almost gets picked off by Tox, but he manages to narrowly avoid that death and fall back.
So top floor control pretty quickly relinquished, and TSG Black are going to start getting things open. So hopefully make it easy enough for them to have a fully safe second and first floor control of the entire map and really just focus on basement, as I think most of Envy has already retreated back. I mean, if you look at the lineup that Envy has, it's a lot of bunker-friendly operators. It's Goyo for time delay. It's a Zombie, or a Rooney, sorry, for the same thing. You have the mirror windows, obviously, to watch it, and smoke for plant denial. It's just most of the stuff they have is very conducive to all hunkering down, not necessarily needing to go far on that roam, but TSG Black still being careful, still checking their angles, even all the way up here on the second floor. As you can see Slash just flicking around and looking for stuff. So they're being careful, but they have to be also careful to not waste too much time. They have to understand that they have the control they need, and they just need to focus on the execute.
Yeah, it is a balance of trying to cross your T's and dot your I's, whilst also not wasting so much time that Smoke becomes an all-powerful destroyer of worlds. Although now we do start to see some poking and prodding towards the site itself, especially from Scarping on that Osa, as he's just looking to see what angles he might be able to find. As you see the Tubero go out as well, just to waste some time on opening those hatches. As we're entering the point of the round where TSG Black have to make something happen, they have to start working the site here, and that's going to be when Slash goes in for his lurk. And when the smoke canisters start being tossed on and everything comes to fruition but boots, he's going to start things off just right for TSG Black, right before execute time.
Everything's going in, flashes, grenades, and the plant's going to even be attempted, but no one's going to stop it. By the looks of it, Tox is on some coverage there, shuts down Boots. Kiru trades that one out. Geek up top manages to find one and recite it. It's a 3v3, and Plant is down.
Plant is down 2 versus 3, though. Envy are in the man advantage here, and they know where at least one of these attackers is. Ocean's Shield now gone, but the man advantage is gone with it, as Geek gets that pick onto Koshi. Looks like one player's going to rotate a marble, and the other has to challenge this player inside of blue, but they know where that marble player is, as now we see Kiru look to start this counter defuse. He doesn't have that hatch coverage, but he is killed off by Scarping on the site itself, as Geek masterfully moves around the cover he has inside of open area and secures the round for TSG Black.
Another quite good-looking round from TSG Black. It wasn't quite as clean, but that's because I think Envy was putting up a terrific fight, and it was very scrappy in the end there. But, I mean, that's where TSG really shows their mettle. Things didn't go necessarily their way 100% of the time, but they were able to push through and choose the right adaptations that led to the wins on that round. And it is a tie game. I mean, sometimes this is just how it goes. Bank can be attacker-sided. It's huge. It's easy for attackers to slip in. As I've been talking about the windows, it's easy for attackers to have a lot of control without even having to be in the building. So sometimes it just goes attacker side, but I also think TSG has just been looking better. Like, they've been waking up, they've been shaking some of the rust off as the game has been going on, and they just seem to be performing better, both mentally and what they're bringing strategically, but also mechanically as well.
Yeah, we've seen players like Slash and Geek start to wake up, and people like Scarping and Rockstone aren't doing half bad either. And players on Envy like BLITZ and like Koshi and Recited that we have kind of expected to carry the torch and have won a lot of rounds almost single-handedly have started to fall off a little bit in these recent rounds. And it's been really hurting them, especially when, like I said before, the players on TSG Black are starting to wake up and starting to perform better mechanically. So we'll see if how that affects things here, as we're seeing the top floor be brought out yet again by Envy, as they're looking to keep the site rotation going, keep TSG on their toes, but TSG were fairly comfortable attacking this site the previous time around.
It did certainly get a little bit hectic, but they did manage to keep it pretty close. So yeah, I don't think TSG are going to be at a loss here. I think they have a good idea of what they want to do, and it's really going to be on Envy to see if they bring anything. And just as I say that, Owen shuts down Cali, so that is those Cali lances gone, and that sort of long-range presence that you could establish across windows and that we saw a little bit earlier, completely off the table.
Gonna look to get the Kanto wall open the same way they did last time, which they managed to do before, and imagine they'll be able to do it again. We're also seeing a floor as be brought out by Geek, which allows them to just dismantle a ton of the utility the defense has set up without ever actually entering the building, which makes things so much safer for them. We see Koshi watching for the skylight drop on the marble stairs here. As we're not quite at execute point yet, but we are at the point where the attackers are going to start poking and prodding and just seeing what sort of picks they can find, and they want to be the ones ready to catch TSG off guard.
And they're all working their way into the building. But one of the things I like about how Envy is playing is Envy reinforced that Kanto wall, but they really aren't playing on it. I mean, that Kanto wall is essentially just there to give the attackers something to do and something to waste their utility on. It is not a integral part to how Envy is holding onto this thing. So Kanto wall goes away, it's gone, it's open. There is no players from Envy that are now overly exposed. Obviously, it might be a bit easier for some of these guys to walk up banana, as that they aren't going to be contested from that wall as easily. But I mean, Koshi isn't going to just lie down and let them walk up. He finds one before ultimately getting shut down.
Find ourselves at a 2v3 favoring Envy here. Make that a 3 versus 1, 1 versus 2 for Geek, as he's on circle, poking around, trying to pre-fire anything. But these Envy players aren't overexposing themselves to these angles, so they're aware of what's at stake. We're going to see a drone fly out from Geek here, looking to see if he can open up this angle and make his rotation easier. So we'll just walk into the site and try to find these players. But again, no one's overexposing themselves. They know exactly where he is. They're just trying to waste his time, as Owen finishes things off after the distraction from his teammate, as map point is secured by Envy.
The bleeding finally stemmed, as Envy looked to be losing a little bit of that prowess that had gifted them so many easy rounds earlier on. But they take it back here. They were playing rather excellently. I think they had some excellent aggression. And part of that was also just, TSG had that Cali. Cali got picked off really easily. That was probably just a bit of an errant play. Maybe don't be as aggressive so close to those windows, because you know that Envy has an affinity for just peeking angles when they think they can get a kill, because they so often can get those kills when they're in their zone. And that can be the difference makers. Losing that one player, losing that lance, losing that long range coverage, just losing man advantage can do a lot of damage to your team and to your ability to perform a successful execute. And so Envy gonna still be looking, I think, to get aggressive, to take an early pick. Even though this is match point, they should play safe and really just try and win this in the most conventional way. The conventional way for Envy is to play aggressive, is to lurk, and is to try and catch you off guard.
I think it's also worth mentioning as well that just Envy looked more prepared that round for the way that TSG was going to attack things. And like you said, they reinforced the Kanto wall but didn't actively play it. And that was, I think, very deliberate to try to just pull things away from what TSG Black actually wanted to do. And there were tons of things like that on that site. Notably the positioning of Koshi on that bandit in this specific place to catch TSG off guard. And now, on this round, the goal is going to be to do something very, very similar for Envy. Try to figure out exactly what TSG Black want to do and just make sure that doing that is a living hell. And so far, it looks like the plan to do that is to bunker down.
The bunker strat is a tough one to pull off, as it sometimes works for these teams, and we've also seen it just kind of fall apart, because once again, it really comes down to how much time is TSG Black going to waste clearing an empty map here. If all of the defenders are downstairs, does TSG have the information network to be able to detect this and realize that the whole map is essentially free and they can just have free reign, take it over, open up hatches, do all they need to do? It looks like they understand that. They're starting to burn away those Aruni gates and starting to open up hatches. So their time economy isn't horrible, but it's also not great. They don't have a huge amount of time to get everything open. They're gonna still be like looking at a lot of these openings here when it comes down to like the last minute of playtime.
I do think it is interesting how slowly they cleared a basically empty map. We did see Recited playing aggressively off-site over on those marble stairs, but there was no active resistance that they really had to fight through. The TSG still take a ton of time to clear things out here, and that is going to put them in a very awkward position, like you were saying, as now they have to start getting to the point where they set up this
Attackers have
execute,
located a bomb.
but they don't have nearly the amount of time to do it that they could have.
I'm gonna see a last minute heading over towards sewer. Last minute rotate from Slash. Still has some of those lion scans, so that could be huge when it comes to this last minute defense. But you can also hear that fire going off. That's the Goyo canisters that Koshi put down. That fire is so expensive when you only have 40 seconds left. I mean, that burns away so much time, and there are still more to pop.
30 seconds left. Smoke canisters, all three of them still on the board as well, and they've become so powerful. But the Ying is being sent out here from TSG. Lion scans as well, dropping into the site. They're planting in an unorthodox position to try to catch Envy off guard. Slash and Goat, though, they have the opening picks to this round, along with Scarping, as everything is coming up TSG. It's all left up to Boots, tucked inside of lockers. He can't even get one. Scarping finishes off the round as TSG finally catch their stride and start to unlock the secrets that Envy had hidden in the vault.
Crazy looking round there. I mean, essentially, what you had was Envy playing a very conventional, very safe round of Siege. Right before the round started, I said they probably shouldn't. They should probably keep playing the aggressive sort of nature that suited them so well. Because what you saw is TSG Black recognized they were up against that standard, time crunch situation that so many people face when they're attacking basement on bank. And TSG's response was, as you noted, to go plant somewhere unorthodox. And in the chaos, Envy have no idea how they have to change that very rigid, very conventional setup they had in order to account for this unorthodox plant. That plant went down. They missed their opportunities. They didn't get that pick. They were panicking. That led to them overextending, and then punish by punish by punish, TSG just managed to shut every single one of those defenders down in a beautiful, like mechanically precise fashion. It was truly excellent to see, and we've been pushed to overtime as TSG just looked really strong now.
Attackers are moving.
We'll see if they can replicate the success they had on their previous play on this top floor bomb site. Although I'd imagine the TSG are looking to switch things up a little bit, give them a run for their money, and that's what we're seeing so far. So they're not going to bring up that alley again. As this time we're going to see the Deimos being brought on. It looks like he's going to try to lurk in through the lobby here. And just see what he can find underneath. Looks like we saw Boots try to do on his attacking side. But speaking of Boots, however, he is going to finish off Tox, or kill off Tox rather, for the opening pick of this round, as TSG starting things off on the back foot this round.
It's a big opening pick to find, and right now you can see all this information utility is going out. Most of it is getting shut down pretty quickly. And that's those Argus cameras coming out from Zero, who I think this is the first time we've seen Zero be brought in terms of this map. I like that TSG is going for information with Zero, with Deimos, but it didn't get super meaningfully used there, as they just kind of walked into that aggression that they should expect from Envy. I mean, they should be prepared that we're going into the main lobby. Someone is going to peek from the balcony. I mean, you have to expect that from Envy at this point.
See if Slash is able to work anything here, but Recited is being careful with his positioning, potentially expecting a bottom floor work here. And he's not giving the attackers the gunfights that they want. He is going to get a little bit adventurous with his peaks, then he falls off here. As XNV know they have the man advantage in this situation, and their goal here is to preserve it as much as they can. Especially with how spread out some of these TSG players are. If they can just hold the side and plug their gaps, that could be all they need.
TSG's been pretty good in the time crunch when push comes to shove and we're in the last 20 seconds of the match. They've been able to really show their strength and get those picks and somehow win them out when it looks like they shouldn't. But without man advantage, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and it might just be a different story as XEnvy coming to the last 40 seconds, man advantage, they could look to just take this round.
Seeing the Envy players be very, very careful here not to give anything up. There are only 30 seconds left. And TSG have barely worked the map control they need. We do have a player inside a janitor, but again, no one's exposing themselves. Slash actually gets killed off. It's off up to Roxo and Scarping as they're both inside a janitor hallway. Make that just Scarping inside a janitor hallway. So he has to work these 4 picks, make that 3 picks as he manages to get the first. Now he's gonna fight Recited on this balcony, but Recited is better in that gunfight as yet again Envy claim map points.
And that's Envy that we know. I mean, they're squirrely and unruly, and you can't pin them down. And as long as they are able to do that long enough to get that opening pick to kind of keep you scared, and as you said it right in the very beginning of the match, TSG was on their back foot because they lost that early opening engagement. That's exactly how Envy wins these things, is they just put you on your back foot. The rest of the round goes by really slowly, and then when it's coming to that execute, you're just disadvantaged, and they're able to swarm around and just take you out. So Envy swapping over to attack here. It's going to be a bit of a change of pace, and hopefully, for them at least, hopefully they can slot right back into that tempo that you need as an attacker and how you can decisively take things. But they did look excellent on attack, and so they could take overtime here right now. They don't have to go to max overtime. We could just see it end if their attacking strat here is solid.
Last time we saw this site attacked by Envy, we saw them try to go for something pretty unorthodox and kind of lurky and playmaking, and it didn't really work at all, as it just gave picks over to TSG Black, which they then just snowballed into a round win. But judging from this operator lineup, it looks like we're going to see something a little bit different here. We are still seeing that Nook being brought out, but it's going to be played by Recited instead of Kiru. And it looks like he's going to a different part of the map than Kiru looked to lurk into. Which means that we're going to see some different attempt at Kiru by Envy as they look to still try to come up with something unorthodox to crack open the site, but do so a little bit more intelligently.
Both Kiru and Slash on Envy and TSG Black respectively have brought Nook, and it was completely pointless. I mean, Nook walked in and immediately got flattened. So neither time it worked. And so, yeah, I really want to see if Envy are going to think about this and they have a really deliberate reason for this Nook here. And if we're going to see something happen differently, because it's been a while since Nook has been in the mainstream, like picked every single time. You know, it's been, I don't know how many times, like a year maybe, but Nook used to be so strong for the ability to avoid cameras, and we know that how Envy has playing and how Envy then sort of forced TSG to start playing was to use more information, and that's exactly where Nook can slot neatly in and just slip through all of that information utility.
So if that security is able to help Recited work anything here, it looks like he wants to try to walk up Marble, but there being barbed wire on it is going to make that quite difficult. Now, we're not seeing a lot of action at this present point in time, but I'd imagine that's because both sides are going to want to set things up to their advantage. Owen, though, going to get killed off by Tox on Arana, who is immediately refragged by Kiru. But that's that top floor coverage that Envy had being killed off now with a refrag, but that's still less space they have to work with in the grand scheme of things.
Big C4 from Slash shuts down Kiru, and that's real unfortunate if you're Envy, but they do manage to regain it. Recited coming in clutch, that Nook finally being kind of a big playmaker, but immediately gets shut down. Slash is not good for just Nook, but also for Koshi. So it's all going to be up to Boots in a 1v3, 50 seconds to make it happen, but it's just not going to go that way as Slash, I think, goes for 4 there.
Beautiful 4K he had to win that round out. And again, we see Envy try to go for something very, very lurky and very setup heavy as well. And so TSG just say, screw it, let's prevent that setup. Don't let them get the map control they want. Don't let them work the bodies into the positions they want. Just force them to be uncomfortable and disrupt them at every possible angle. Now we're going to see a tag time come out here from TSG, as this is the last chance they have to secure this map for themselves. And in a best of 3, it's often highly important that you win your own map pick, as you can't guarantee you can win the battleground that your opponents select. So we'll see how that ends up affecting things for both teams here, as they both have an opportunity to just sit and talk.
It is interesting that we just haven't seen tag timeouts come out until the final hour here. Neither team, I guess, I mean, maybe what you said about it's potentially that they just don't have their coaches with them, or one team maybe doesn't even have a coach. So maybe they don't need the tag timeout. They can just sort of talk to themselves in between rounds, and they think that's enough. But even still, you'd think that the tag timeouts would have come out, because it's been such a competitive match, and it's really gone all the whole distance. So I would have expected it earlier, but I guess late is better than never, and that's the exact same thinking that TSG Black have, as they looking to take this final round here. They're on attack. They were doing really well on attack. It was the attacking side where they kind of woke up on. So I think they want to finish this strong, and I honestly don't know who I favor going into this. TSG looked good on attack, so maybe give it to them, but also their last attacking round was taken pretty decisively by Envy, so it's kind of anyone's ballgame.
Yeah, it is situations like this where it's really weird to figure out, like, who you predict to win
5
things.
seconds remaining.
Especially with this bomb site just being, like, the way that it has
Objective is to
been
locate a bomb
in
and
this
defuse
map.
it.
It's only been won by the defense once, fun fact, on that first round that Envy were defending, with what feels like a long time ago with how the game has progressed since then. So statistically, probably going to be TSG Black that takes this round. We'll see if Envy has anything to say about it. I believe the Mozzie is new as well, just for some information to know, so they might be looking to poke at the first floor a little bit more than before.
I think the Mozzie's new. I don't know if we've actually seen Warden either. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I know we've seen Warden a couple times.
Okay,
I'm not
a
sure
couple
if we've
times.
seen the Mozzie from
What about
TSG.
Jaeger?
I think the Jaeger might be new.
And I think those do. I mean, even if we have seen Warden, Warden hasn't been as brought as like Goyo has been. So they are looking to try and bring some new strategies here to definitely try and hold onto that site. I mean, there's a lot of throwable denial there with the Jaeger and the Warden there to resist flashes, look through smokes, pop any throwable stuff. That could be pretty big. But see, the first attack's going in, and ultimately the C4 wins it out, but Warden is still down.
Roxo is going to get that refrag, as we see a couple players still working on the first floor here from Envy. It's 2-2 on the site in the Realm now, but it looks like TSG are content with pretty much just taking over this blue area and opening up these walls.
Attackers have located a
Very
bomb.
big.
They are
if you look.
establishing some flank watch
Look at who they
towards
lost.
this
though.
open side.
They lost their Osa. That's going to make
Far
it a
from
lot more
ideal.
difficult. They're going for the strat, and they're just going to run in. They're raw dogging it. No Osa, no nothing. It's going to be a bit more difficult in the post plant, but nothing's going to stop it. They can just get the diffuser right down. All those flashes are doing a perfectly good job of denying Envy, despite the fact that they brought the Jaeger. I mean, what was happening? Everything's going to chaos right now.
Chaos indeed, especially with that lurk from Slash coming in the garage as Envy are caught completely off guard. Now we see Boots try to walk his way in through square, gets killed off. It's going to be Kiru now trying to find the last of these picks, but it's all talks in the end of things as TSG take their own map pick and successfully dismantle Envy.
I mean, TSG weren't the best when this thing started, but they ended up looking so good and really dominant towards the end. I mean, their adaptation game not only went toe-to-toe with Envy, but I mean, obviously by the nature of them winning this map, it exceeded Envy's ability to adapt. And I really like what I saw. A lot of their players mechanically just started popping off. I mean, we saw huge plays. Notably, I want to shout out Slash too for just some really enormous individual plays that I think contributed immensely to round wins. But in general, yeah, a very surprising but very impressive performance from TSG Black, but also still a good performance from Envy. I mean, some mistakes made for sure that definitely lost them rounds, but they look good, and it's understandable how they are like 3-0 in the tournament right now. And we're also far from done with this best of 3.
So we do have Cafe coming up next, which is Envy's map pick. So if they were able to take things all the way to the end on their opponent's map pick, we'll see if they're able to work a better result on their own. That being said, though, we're going to send things over to a quick break just to set things up behind the scenes and make sure that we have everything ready. So make sure that, get up, use the restroom, grab some water, but be right back because we're going to have more action for you.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you got something to eat or something to drink, and you're ready to sit and watch because we got another map of Siege coming up. Last time it went to TSG on Bank, but now we are heading to Envy's map pick. We are going to Cafe Dostoevsky, and we're going to see if things shake out a bit differently, and if we have to go to the third map decider of Border.
It'll be interesting for sure, and especially with how close that first map was, with Envy having a very good early lead and then it being caught up by TSG. We'll see if something similar happens here, or if TSG are able to push things over the line yet again. That being said, though, don't think there's much point in dilly-dallying, so provided things are ready, we can go over and... or we can go ahead and send it over to the game and get that started. And just make sure that we get into the action as quick as possible.
It's like a nice, beautiful look at the snowy exterior of Cafe Dostoevsky. Look at this beautiful cinematic footage we have prepared. Yes, that is Cafe Dostoevsky. Thank you, text. Cafe is somewhat similar to Bank in terms of its size and how you have to play it, where you do have to often clear all of the floors, even if you aren't planning on fighting on all of the floors. You know, if you're attacking on Kitchen on the first floor, you still are probably going to at least clear second floor. And if you're going to clear second floor, you probably have to clear third floor. And it can be very time consuming, just like how Bank can be. So clock is something that you have to manage. Flank watch is important. Information is really important for making sure you're clearing very quickly and efficiently. And also executes are super important. And that's where Ying can become a huge player. That's part of why Ying is getting taken off here.
Yeah, she's just so powerful when it comes down to the actual execute that it makes sense that Envy don't want to see her, especially with how proficient TSG are on attack. And how much they use the Ying. Monty, again being banned out by TSG Black, makes perfect sense, as he's been such a menace in recent months with the way that shields work now, the way that melee priority works as well. TSG don't want to see him. They also don't want to see that Azami, which I believe means this is the same bans they had on the previous map. But I would argue that the Cafe is probably Azami's best map just because of how many different places you can set up to be absolutely obnoxious to clear using her gadgetry.
Oh yeah, third floor cigar lounge is a pain to clear, and Mira can also provide a lot of really important control on all floors, but I also think a lot of third floor and how much a single Mira can almost control the entirety of third floor alone, and is excellent to put those mirror windows up there, leave someone up there who is like a set and forget operator. So a bunch of very understandable bans, understandable why we're seeing them get taken out. And I think, at least going into this, I anticipate there to be a decent amount of information coming out of at least the attackers. I mean, right now you can see they are bringing that Brava and they are bringing that Grim, both of which can provide information on where people are, potentially switching over to the Ayana. But regardless, information is going to be sort of the name of the game, just as it was in Bank. And both teams became really good when it came to that information warfare at the end of Bank. It was a little slower for TSG Black, but by the end of it, they were doing a great job. They had efficient droning. They were making really informed decisions, and that's what led them to that ultimate victory on that map.
Starting down with bottom floor here for Envy, which is... I mean, there's no bad sight on this map, in my opinion. Actually, back in the days when I was a player, was a very big fan of doing a forest light rotation, although it's interesting to see them start with the bottom floor here, as usually you'll see the top floor, or maybe one of the second floor sites. And this site is going to demand a lot of vertical play, which is why we're seeing both the Buck and the Ram. It's really every site on this map does have some element of verticality to it, although I would argue none more so than this first floor site.
Definitely not. I mean, you're going to see those hatches for sure get opened. And I mean, that's part of why they brought Ram here, is specifically to send those boogie drones across the floor and chew up as much of it as they can, just creating all sorts of angles for the attackers to leverage and make the defense just completely unsafe. I mean, Kitchen becomes so riddled with holes at that point that you just can't even, you have to move around the entire time. There's no real safe area except for Freezer, and then, you know, the attackers just anticipate you hanging out there. So we'll see how effectively they're able to do all this stuff, but they are getting started on that third floor clear. They have it pretty safe, and they're going to start doing the second floor now.
It's interesting that TSG always go for these methodical multi-floor clears. Because we've seen this a couple times now, where we will leave most, if not all, of the top areas of the map clear, but TSG will still opt to go in from the very top and clear out and drone out absolutely everything. And it is a very time-consuming process. Now, they are making quick work of this vertical play, and the RAM is going to allow them to shortcut a lot of it. But there's a lot of time that's been left on the table by TSG just with how methodical they're trying to be.
And you can tell that they're hoping, they're creating enough holes in the floor, and they're going to start to apply just a little bit of pressure, and then they'll be able to find the picks. But if they don't find those picks, if they don't have the pressure in the right sort of way, and they don't force someone into an awkward position, then you're right, they're going to be left with a little bit of time on the clock, and they have to rotate downstairs, and then they have to walk through these very dangerous funnel points. And at the end of the day, that just goes defender every single time. So TSG Black have to find a pick really soon, or they're going to be stuck funneling in through really dangerous positions.
45 seconds left here now with one less body on the floor for each team. A trade comes out, leaving Boots and Roxo both on the floor. Because now we're seeing presumably a Freezer drop here from the attack, which is going to be contested very heavily by Recited. Player inside of VIP as well goes unnoticed, as now everything's left up to Scarping with a sliver of HP left. Shotgun comes out, it's all too much, as Envy take a convincing first round and seem to get over their defensive woes from that.
Envy look great. I mean, TSG had a solid plan in mind when it came to the verticality, but they just didn't have anything to push it over the edge. I mean, they had all the angles opened up, but you need stuff like Capitao bolts, or you need some pressure from below. I mean, that's why Monty is so great on this map and why Monty is banned, but you need something like that to force defenders to walk into those angles you've created. Just because you opened up the floor doesn't mean you automatically have line of sight onto all the defenders and can easily kill them. You still need that pressure, and that's what I think TSG Black was really lacking there. We're going up to third floor, so that vertical isn't going to be played as much. We might see a little bit of stuff from below, as that sometimes does happen, but this really, on this site, it's really just about controlling those major points by pixel. I mean, we have people that will play cocktail. There are these key points of this floor that it's all about how you clear them. How do you drone them out? How do you use grenades or flashes? How do you isolate them or wall them off, or whatever it is you might want to do? And I'm really curious to see what TSG Black are bringing.
Blind Watch operators with both the Gridlock and the Nomad, which is very interesting.
Prime to trigger.
It's not necessarily a bad pick, just with how this map tends to be and with how mobile Envy like to be. Although it is curious, it's not something that you see a lot, so we'll see how that ends up manifesting itself within the round. I do like that we have that Grim and that Capitals. That's a lot of displacement utility that TSG can bring out once the actual execute goes down, along with having that Brava just to steal some utility and information away from the defense. This attacking lineup from TSG does really have a lot going for it if they're able to use it properly.
I would even be curious, or would love to see an aggressive Nomad where the air jab is placed to maybe move a defender out, but that's not going to happen quite yet, especially since Recited runs out and finds a kill onto Scarping. So that's a ton of utility taken off in the form of those Capitao bolts. Capitao is one of the people that I was just talking about, using fire to like move a defender, or smoke to force a defender to move because now their line of sight is cut off, is so important, and that's something that they're not going to be able to do now.
It's also just setting this pace and this tempo that TSG Black have to contend with on this attack, as they have to be wary of how mobile these players from Envy are and how aggressive they're being, and the fact that it has been successful so far. It's going to put them on the back foot in a lot of these engagements. Now, we are seeing some progress being made over towards the piano side of the map, but there's less than half the rounds to go here for them to make this attack work, and they're just working on the top floor right now. They still have to get into mining.
There's a lot of map being held still very comfortably by Envy right now, but that nade is going to be a big opener as Boots goes down, shortly followed by Recited. So that actually gives TSG man count advantage. Just under a minute to go. They can certainly still take this, as there's now a much bigger opening for them to come in through.
Seeing the dominoes start to be set up here for TSG as they start to skulk their way in. But Tox is going to fall down the open hatch, temporarily equalize the fight on the side as he looks to go to whatever staircase he chooses to walk up again. As now we see the execute utility start to come out. Is Gridlock going to jump in, start planning that diffuser as the attack is on Overwatch, but they managed to down that diffuser before Owen is killed off himself. As yet again, we see a dominant defense from Envy followed immediately by a dominant attack from TSG Black.
I liked TSG Black's problem solving there. I mean, they were encountering these situations where they just couldn't get anything to move and they didn't know exactly what to do. And so they turned to their gadgets and their utility. They started using every drone they had. I saw multiple of those Argus cameras going out from Zero. I saw the clutch drones from Brava. I mean, they were using it all to figure out there's got to be an opening somewhere. There's got to be a weak point. Everywhere else is being held like a stronghold. How do we find that weak point, and then how do we pressure? And they did just that. They got that opening trade. They created a little bit of room, and they're able to needle themselves in there and just keep making enough room until they had plant force. They forced all the defenders to take really aggressive actions that just put them in bad footing, and they were able to punish them really well. It was a methodical round. It did take a little bit. I was still a little concerned with the clock there, but ultimately they were able to manage everything super impressively.
10 seconds remaining.
We'll see what sort of answers Envy has now that they're
5 seconds
making another
remaining.
site selection and making another strategic selection.
Attackers objective
I like
is
the
to locate
additions
a
of the
bomb and
Capcan,
defuse it.
Vigil, and Legion, as all those operators kind of force you to slow down a little bit and be more methodical, and Vigil especially can enable a lot of aggression like we see from Kiru here. Which isn't going to net anything just yet, but that confidence and that bravery that we've been seeing out of Envy has been very beneficial for them. We're going to see that Nomad being brought out yet again. Used to have a runouts this time, along with some Claymores being brought out by Slash. Because now we're seeing what looks like a mining dining defense here from Envy, which is going to require some vertical control, but also just a lot of space on that balcony.
Attackers have located a bomb.
I like the mind games here that we see Envy playing. I mean, they had Kiru spawn peeking right away, but they are opening up every single window, just shooting out little planks, even if they're not actively peeking it. I mean, that phantom pressure that you as an attacker certainly feel when you hear a barricade being broken. You are suddenly checking your flank. You are suddenly looking and eyeing every single window, knowing that every single one of them, there could be a defender right there ready to jump out and get you. And even if you have the Nomad, it's not great. Recita getting that first pick, that's part of what's so good about bringing a Capcan too late in the game, is it's just not expected, and it gives you an easy kill just like that.
Forces you to look at every single doorway a little bit more carefully than you would probably like. C4 goes out, but its impact is null and void as we enter the final 90 seconds of this round. There's still a lot of hesitancy from these players on TSG Black, especially with Slash being killed off early on by the Capcan trap. As we're seeing them leave a lot of space up to Envy here, as we're, again, entering that pivotal point of the round where they have to start working the site, but Envy are still pretty comfortable.
Right, as you say, that scarping does even things out, finding one up to Kiru. So that's a pretty big pick, but Koshi is there, shuts down Tox, keeping Envy in man advantage here. When they get down to the last 30 seconds-ish, you can see Boots finds another one to really start to strengthen Envy's grip on this match, or on this specific round. Last 40 seconds, it's going to be up to Roxo and to Scarping. They're both full HP, but they're going up against 4 full HP defenders, so it's not an easy task for them.
35 seconds, Roxo jumps into the site, immediately killed off by a C4, leaving everything up to Scarping, who doesn't fare much better. Koshi, he has the crossfire from that red train. As yet again, we see Envy go into the problem solving, but they respond much better this time to how TSG Black go on the offensive, as they manage to not string a couple rounds together yet, but go up 2-1 on their defense.
I mean, these teams really are going blow for blow with each other right now. Every single time one of the teams steps up their game or brings something new, we see the exact same thing happen in the next round, but with the other team. I mean, they just look so competitive, and this is some absolutely great siege we're seeing. There's so much problem solving, so much sort of anticipatory operator picks and choices where they're assuming that the other team is going to play like this, so they're bringing a certain operator, and the other team has already calculated for that assumption. It's the whole I'm 1 step ahead of you, you're 2 steps ahead of me, I'm now 3 steps ahead of you. I mean, they just keep going with each other, and it's this really entertaining match. But at some point, I mean, one of these teams has to show themselves to be the team that is just better ultimately when it comes to the actual firefight, and they're able to make those better instinct decisions. And right now, Envy are in the lead, but TSG Black did take the previous map, so we'll have to see who it actually ends up being. But either way, it's been really competitive thus far.
When you have games like this, there's one of 2 ways you can look at it. Either, man, this would be really cool in infinite overtime, or thank God there's no infinite overtime, depending on your outlook at that current point in time, or how your voice is feeling sometimes if you've been yelling for too long. We'll see, though, if this back and forth trend continues into this fourth defensive round, excuse me, for Envy. As we see Boots get an opening pick onto Slash, I believe that puts Envy up 4-0 in trades, or in opening, depending on how you want to count it, based off how the trade went that first round. But now, though, we see them start to work things a man down, but notably, that's flank watch utility that was killed off there by Boots, which means that there's a lot more freedom for the defenders to move around anywhere they may so choose.
It's an immediate refrag, though. As Tox, not immediate, sorry. As Tox does find one of the cures, so there is a refrag, evens things out, and there's a bit of a hectic moment there, but no one else actually dies. A little bit of damage taken on the spot of Tox, but everyone's just kind of sitting, waiting for something to happen. Tox knows that there's a defender hanging out over by Cocktail, because of course there is, and he just can't seem to do anything about it. Meanwhile, Owen does find one under Roxas, so that's a good evening pick, but there's another trade, blow for blow. These teams are just so well matched right now.
The blows are starting to go the way of Envy, however, in the department of HP, as combined Tox and Scarping have 33 HP to their names, with only Geek being on full HP. And the Capcan being on the board eliminates him. So it's only the 20 HP left on Tox to make this round work. He's gonna walk up to the White Hall, but Koshi is better. And finally, we see Envy learn how to string some of these defenses together after struggling on bank.
Even that round, there was just some moments where TSG were so good at getting those refrags and keeping themselves in a competitive place. They sort of sacrificed some positioning in order to get those reflags that then left them in a very vulnerable situation that Envy quickly scooped up. But yeah, I mean, Envy finally manages to get a second round in a row. They take the lead and manage to hold on to it. We'll see if they can keep going, but throwback to Bank, I mean, Envy was on a pretty solid roll for the first half of the map, and then it flipped sides, and it really started to fall apart for them. They lost a lot of momentum. They just didn't seem to have the same control that they did in the first half. So that same exact story could unfold here on Cafe. We just have to wait and see. I do like the constant bringing of trap operators, though. I mean, the 2 picks with Capcan and also still bringing Frost. We see Boots on Frost right now. These defenders or the attackers haven't seemed to quite learn to look at the doorways yet, and maybe that will change. But as long as it hasn't, I mean, just keep bringing the traps.
Now, there is a little bit of survivorship bias with the traps that we actually see have impact. As we see, obviously, the kills happen from Capcan traps, but a lot of them you're not necessarily going to see, since it's just looking at a doorway for a little bit longer than shooting it. But even still, just forcing the attackers to slow down on every doorway, or drone everything for just that little bit longer. That time adds up, especially with how aggressive people have been with their playstyle on Envy. It really does put TSG Black into a very, very awkward position. And now the Frost if those are placed close to the site, if you need to jump in somewhere late round and choose between looking at the frostbite and looking at the guy that tries to kill you, it's not a gunfight I want to be in.
Reloading!
So they certainly know Owen is in Bakery, and this is a key moment for TSG Black. We want to see what is their problem solving here. How do you get rid of Owen? He has a shield, he's Jaeger, so of course there's going to be some trophy systems around, making it difficult to just nade him out or flash him out. So what do? They're starting to open up that Bakery wall and have some angles on him from the window, but they so far haven't done anything to actually make him move. We need to see some problem solving coming up.
They're going to try to do that with that Capital, which is going to miss, so he is going to continue sitting in this one position. And they're going to throw another one, and the frag grenade. Neither of these will miss, and they get another kill on top of it, taking out Recited, which does give them a pretty firm man advantage, along with plenty of time to utilize these cooking drones that Ram has to start cracking open this site. But that's a lot of Capital's utility gone, and it's something they're going to miss when this execute actually comes out. And if Envy can get another pick or two before the actual execute happens, then that's potentially where they're going to start to feel way more comfortable.
Oh no, Boots, you had him, and Boots does get him, but it's a little bit of a hairy kill. Does Boots know that Geek is also lurking up here? Geek giving his position away, some firing there that now will tell that Frost there's still some opportunity. Boots able to find another one, just does ring around the Rosie, and those might be the picks you're talking about, because time is starting to dwindle. There's going to be traps near site that these TSG members can still run into, even if there's no one on site, so it can get really dangerous here.
25 seconds left for TSG Black to make this execute. Scarping walks in towards Kitchen, double killed off, and then some by Koshi.
15 seconds left.
Double kill with that SMG-12, and then the crossfire from Boots on that vertical play. TSG, how do you mess it up? It was all going so well.
Absolutely stellar individual plays. Especially from Boots. I mean, that really slow, super patient, trigger discipline filled flank he had. It almost got hairy. I mean, he was fighting with Ram and it almost didn't work out, but gets that pick, flanks around, gets the second pick upstairs, and then can just sit there and then has that final pick through the floorboards, able to finish it off. I mean, super safe way to finish that off, but also just excellent. Who was it? It was it Owen that got the two-piece with the SMG-12? Koshi did. But also just an excellent play and a little bit of an unfortunate lineup. You have to recognize that, you know, sometimes when you just line up like that, you know, the defender just gets lucky and can get two easy shots with just how many bullets that SMG-12 is putting out. But still, don't want to take it away from those players. They managed to play that near perfect and completely took a round that should have been TSG's.
5 seconds to go.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate to watch things fall apart like that in the dying seconds, and I was a little bit worried when I saw they had all of, like, cooking clear, and then they walked in towards coffee, which the defenders had under control. So a little bit of a misplay there from TSG, although there's also a lot more proficiency on this map from Envy than we saw on the defensive side of Bank. Although if that translates to more proficiency on the attacking side as well, then TSG need to claim this next round if at all possible. And it is on, I believe, top floor from seeing that, right? Though it's a little bit hard to tell. No, it's on Mining Dining, or Mining Reading.
Yeah.
So, it's on Reading Dining here, which is a site that is entirely mortal. They do have to take that top floor before they can really start working anything. But if they're able to do that and then properly work that vertical play, that really is not that far-fetched for them to win this round.
Just eyeing or sighted on that cap can again to see if TSG are gonna be prepared for it or not. They do have that IQ, and I saw IQ, you know, propelled up, looking through the wall with that scanner, so certainly spotting some of those things out. The call out has probably gone out to check every single doorway. Whether or not they'll do it is kind of, we'll see. I mean, that clutch drone could certainly take one of those, but I think it needs to kind of generate a charge there in order to do it. But right now, TSG just going a little bit slow, and that's where Capcan traps are the most dangerous, is when you don't have much time, you have to rush, and you can't afford to check doorways, and you just get blown right up.
And in the wise words of Russian Badger, Legion punishes loafers. The more time you leave him to stew, the more utility he's going to throw out on the board. Seeing an aggressive work now from Tox over towards Long Bar. But so far, he's not really finding anyone. They've all vacated the premises. Boots gets the opening pick of this round. Recited killed Awful, laying behind the couches inside of the piano. As now we see all these fights start to coalesce with TSG Black coming out on top with that pick onto Boots. Owen as well finding himself inside of some hot water over by these white stairs. And the attackers only have about 40 seconds left to work things here as they're looking to start getting some vertical play done, while holding on to these flanks as well, as they are expecting that aggression to come out from Envy, and it does, but Kiro wins that fight as he leaves things at a 3 versus 3. No, 3 versus 2 for his team, as they have 20 seconds left to defend things. I know TSG have to rush. They rush on in. Scarpin gets that pick onto Kiru as he's walking closer towards mining. Geek gets that pick onto Owen as well. Everything's left up to Koshi in the 1 versus 2. He has control of the site, though. He could try to stop this plant if he just manages to kill Scarping. That's all he needs to do. But Scarping off the plant now. Gunfight's better for Koshi, however. No, with the shoddy as Koshi takes it. 11-1 in these first 6 rounds. As, oh my gosh, TSG can't get anything done yet.
Wow. Wow. I mean, everything that is just being said in the chat, man, that made my heart stop for more than a couple beats. I mean, that was really close. And I get the anxiety of when you take out the person covering the planter and you're going towards the planter, you want there to be not enough time for them to get off the plant. Because if you go too fast, they can hop off the plant and they can get an easy kill on you. So you have to go at the perfect moment. But then he hesitated a little too much and the plant got put down. It was all sorts of crazy. But ultimately, my goodness, a good attempt from TSG Black, but they still took too much time. And that was kind of the big thing that did them in. Right there at the end is they just didn't have enough time for what they wanted. They weren't quick enough when it came to the clear. They did a lot of setup, but then really hesitated when it came to going deeper into the building and going to the lower floors, going to second floor. It just took too long. And Envy played into that pretty nicely, despite the fact that it did come down to a 1v2 situation where we had to see a clutch come out like that. But still, solid plays from everyone pretty much to give Envy this 5-1 lead. And we very well could see a border now, which is how good Envy have looked. And they already are 1 round away from match point, map point.
If the proficiency they had on defense translates over to this attack, then I'm a little bit worried for TSG at this point. They didn't really go many. They didn't really have any convincing rounds in that first half, but it looked like they were going to have a convincing round. They managed to find a way to hand it over towards Envy. Again, though, it could just be like Bang, where like I think Envy's doing really well, then it's just like whatever side is just dominant in that map. We'll have to see, but so far, at least, looks good for them.
I like the work they're doing here. They're opening all the windows, they're getting the drones, and they're all posted up on their separate windows. It's clear that they've practiced this exact attacking setup before. Who goes where, how they push things in. Unfortunately, that's probably not how they drew it up, as Scarping finds 1 and Geek a second. Koshi does answer back, but not before Kiru goes down. Flash is at least good for 1 as Koshi finds a second and a third, but things are somehow tied out, despite the fact that TSG Black looked to take the majority of those opening picks. But right now, Koshi going big, keeping his team alive, but they're both in these awkward situations here, and it gets worse too as Tox finds 1 onto Koshi, and ultimately it's finished off. Roxo finding that last one. A bit of a head scratcher there, but it looked like Envy had things set up. They went in and then they just lost these fights, and it kind of got to that awkward moment where there's just 2 people on each team sitting in the same room just looking at each other, waiting for someone to make a move.
Yeah, honestly, it reminds me of watching G2 on Cafe earlier. They tried to pull some other thing against Sonics, and it didn't go well, which if you're a G2 fan, was really sad to see, but if you're like me, then it's a wonderful sight to see Sonics dismantle that. Down to the basement, we're gonna go here for TSG Black for their
Attackers have
second
discovered the location of a
defense.
bomb.
Last time they were able to take advantage of a very strange attacking setup from Envy that did look rehearsed, but unfortunately for them was very ineffectual in that last round. So I'd imagine we'll see a pivot towards something maybe not conventional per se, but maybe a little bit more coordinated and a little bit less of whatever we saw in the
10
previous
seconds
round.
to go.
Looking to give Envy a taste of their own medicine. You see him putting up those cap can traps right now. Whether or not Envy is going to be able to read into that and expect that, we'll see. I mean, it looks like they might try and explode in a little bit as they are bringing a blitz, which is the first time we've really seen a shield get brought out here in this series. And a well-placed cap can trap could very well smell the end of a very quickly moving blitz.
Koshi goes up 15-2 with that opening pick as he's been dominant on this map. The kind of fragger that was lacking in that last map for Envy. We're going to see something very quick here with this blitz, like you said, especially with Boots getting that pick onto Tox. They're figuring out where these defenders are and what they need to do to start walking in. That's exactly what Koshi does, making that entry in towards Bakery along with Recited on that blitz. Kiru gets that pick. Boots gets another one as well. Everything is awesome to Slash on that first floor. Almost manages to get one pick, but now they know exactly where he is, and when he tries to go back, it's Recited all the way as Envy find themselves on map points.
I barely even had a chance to sort of understand what TSG were doing there. I mean, Envy just, I think they got that opening pick, and they're like, oh, cool. We have a blitz. Let's just overwhelm them now. Let's not even worry about what their strat is. And also, all of the Capcan traps, I believe, at least 3 of them were, I think we're on the 2nd floor, anticipating a roam. And I know we've talked about this with regards to both this map and previously on Bank, where how the team seemed to take so long clearing the whole map, even if Sight was on the 1st floor. This was the exact opposite of that. This was Envy recognizing that that's been what's happened the entire time, and a great way to subvert expectations and catch TSG off guard is to just not even go to 2nd or 3rd floor, just explode right in immediately, overwhelm them while people are off site and catch them off guard, and it did exactly that. And that's sort of what Envy's been so good at time and time again. Even when they didn't win on Bank, they were really good at catching TSG Black off guard. And right now, we are 1 round away from this getting pushed to a decisive victory here and to a 3rd map.
5 seconds to insertion.
Decisive is certainly one way to put it, but even in that first round that TSG won on this half, it was still very, very close, largely because Koshi is just smurfing, I guess, in this game. He was very dominant in that round. But even still, these rounds that TSG are winning really do still feel like they have the potential to go either way. And when there are only 2 rounds that you've won, when they look like that, it's not exactly a great thing to have happening. So this OSA that is being brought out by Recited, already having some value, taking out some of these mute jammers, and dismantling that utility around the site is just going to make the lives of all these Envy players way easier once it actually comes down to crunch time.
I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. These Bravo drones doing tons of work, getting everything from ADSs to mute jammers, or not ADSs, sorry, Banshees from Malusi, mute jammers, just getting rid of so much utility and also providing information to the side of Envy. And you can see that they brought that Dokkaebi, they're all posted up, they have a good idea of what they want to do, and Boots finds a big pick on the Slash to open things up.
He is refragged by the Vigil boss G, but Tox now finds himself in an awkward position. Recited gets a kill as well, along with Koshi. That's going to put the defenders in a spot where they're worse for wear. It doesn't look like they know exactly where Roxo is on Heaven, which means he could potentially rat here and get a very impactful pick if they don't know where he is. But that leaves Geek alone on the site here. They just look to go for it, but we're going to enter a little bit of a lull as the attackers look to get their util down, and Roxo takes advantage.
So Roxo's given away his position. They at least know he's upstairs. This could be a invitation for the defend or for the attackers to push downstairs. Don't even worry about that upstairs position right now. But they also want to clear him out because he's so isolated. You see, they're stacking up. They're getting all these different angles lined up. They're flashing him. He's under a lot of pressure right now. With grenade indicators everywhere, but are they going to execute on it? They finally get it. It's a little hairy, but Recited with the pick. While Geek coming up for the flank to try and make something happen. Can't have it happen because Koshi is just so good on this map, and that is an easy win on Cafe for Envy.
That is such a drastic score difference between those two maps. Almost as polar opposite as you can get, even. Just with the fact that the first one was maximum overtime, 15 rounds, and this one only needed 9, with TSG only winning 2 rounds and Envy just being completely dominant for everything else.
Koshi going 17-2 just deserves a shout out. That is absolutely insane. And if Koshi keeps even a fraction of that performance up on this next map, it'll be an easy one. Speaking of, we have Border right after this. We're going to throw it quick to a quick break. So once again, go to the bathroom, get a drink or something, because we'll be right back with some more Siege.
was a break that, for once, was almost as quick as that second map was. The technical issues were kept to a minimum, which is what I prefer personally. It is funny to laugh at them, but I also have to be on the broadcast that does them, which is always a hell of a time. That being said, though, in case you missed it so far, TSG took their own map pick of Bank 8-7, and then a complete reversal of that scoreline with Envy taking their own map pick of Cafe 7-2, which is, I mean, that was just crazy to watch. Me or Garage.
Yeah, I mean, Envy looked completely different. They already looked like a pretty solid team when it was on Bank, but they just looked so dominant, so aggressive on Cafe, and you have to be a little worried if you're TSG or if you're a TSG fan. The last map here we're going to is Border, and that is a map that is super conducive to aggressive, unorthodox, ratty plays, and that is exactly what Envy has been doing and what they were so good in. What we saw Koshi going up 17-2 on. I mean, if we don't cool down for too long, if we get into this map pretty quickly here, they won't have any time for Koshi to cool off. He's going to be hitting just as hard, hopefully. We'll see some insane plays coming out. But yeah, I mean, I'd be scared if I was going up against Envy right now because they are in their zone, and this is going to be a type of map that I think they will work really, really well on.
Yeah, I don't envy that position that TSG Black now find themselves in. As obviously you do typically expect to lose your opponent's map pick, but they really would have wanted to finish this out in 2 maps. Just because we've seen that Envy are very capable of being very fast and aggressive. And Border really is a map that exemplifies that playstyle. It makes it so much easier and so much more effective to pull off those aggressive maneuvers. And now this is a really good chance for Envy to repeat the success they had on Cafe.
We're getting into Border, as you can see, and I believe Envy, they're starting on defense, correct? Yes.
Yes.
You can see that right now. Envy starting on defense. So we're going to see maybe more runouts and sort of ratty plays rather than the aggression that was so dominant on Banks attacking. So we're going to see how Envy fares on defense first. It might not be as explosive of a match right away as if Envy was maybe starting on attack and we were seeing them really hit the ground running on attack. But still, I expect some of that unpredictable, difficult to control rattiness from the defense, from them at least.
Now, what's interesting is that we're seeing the Blitz banned out now by Envy instead of the Monty, which normally you would see, followed up by a Ying. And normally you'd expect Monty to be banned out just because he has a pain on every map, but I suspect just with the way this map specifically plays that Envy just knows something about the Blitz, or maybe the Blitz and TSG specifically, that we don't. The Warden is also a very interesting ban, but I think it kind of makes sense just given the fact that this map can be kind of power position heavy, and Warden is very good at those.
Yeah, I mean, both teams really, but Envy especially, were just flash spamming areas when it was on Bank, but especially Cafe. So a Warden being taken off just makes those flashes that much stronger. You know, you want to be able, if you're going to isolate a specific player on the defense in a corner and you want to flash him to death and then just descend upon him, you know, it's always a bummer when you do that and then you run around and oh, it's a ward and he just stands up and annihilates you with the MPX. So understandable why they'd want to get rid of it, as flash has been so important throughout this whole thing. But as we're getting underway, we can take a first look at what we're sort of seeing, and
10 seconds to go.
it looks fairly standard from Envy. We're seeing some information and then some denial.
5
I
seconds
do
left.
like coming out from TSG. The Deimos is so strong on this map. It's small. There's a lot of wooden floors. Deimos can just absolutely wreck house here.
Seeing a very aggressive early spawn peek from Kiru, followed
Defender
by a
exposed.
run out, which isn't going to net anything, but you want to set that pace and show your opponents that you're willing to go for those sorts of things, especially since this map can be very, very attacker favored. And we want to set the precedence very early on that TSG have to fear the extremities of the map, so they're hesitant to take
Swapping
rounds.
mags!
can see Recited too, also just on the precipice of a doorway, looking to run out. At constant marker at the top of or the middle of our screen, sort of saying that an opponent is detected outdoors. It's exactly what we were talking about. I mean, Envy are running around everywhere, and Recited finds a beautiful shot, and he's not even done yet. He's still peeking these narrow angles, looking for something, not letting these attackers at all feel safe where they are.
That's the IQ too, which means a lot of these gadgets like these Valkyrie cams are going to be, they're gonna have so much more life in them than they would have otherwise,
Defender is
which just
exposed.
makes TSG's life much more difficult. As well, there's Recited and Owen looking at this doorway that they want to walk into. Kiru finds one of his own, and everything TSG has tried to do so far, they have been met with heavy resistance, which has left them in a pretty good man deficit. Koshi gonna get killed off though, not able to continue success from his last map just yet. But look at all this time that Envy's wasted, and TSG are barely in the map so far.
Loading new mag.
That's a big pick though, as Kiru gets caught by the bullets going underneath the castle barricade. Really unfortunate. Does even things out, so it's 3v3, and with a minute and 10, something can certainly happen here. Geek finds one onto Recited. That's a big pick, as Recited was holding on there in security so well. So now it's going to be up to Owen and to Boots here. They're going to have to clutch up a little bit, as there are 3 attackers that are going to be descending upon them real soon here.
50 seconds left here. There's a man and an HP advantage going in the favor of the attackers, with Owen being on such low HP. And the attackers have enough time to just figure out exactly where these defenders are and start to figure out exactly how they want to attack the site here. One attacker is going to reveal themselves. This is going to be a gunfight, which Owen looks to go for. Then he ends up losing to Scarping. Is now Boots caught inside of the Grim canister. Has to try to find this 1 versus 3. Owen's giving him the fights that he wants. The Deimos, in fact, opens up an entirely new angle to fight him from, as we see why TSG are looking to establish this early lead, as the attack can be so dominant.
So Envy certainly didn't disappoint when it came to just running around a whole lot and doing stuff, as they were able to get that early opening pick with Recited. I mean, Recited and the amount of people who are spawn peeking, running out, constantly making their presence known to the attackers that, hey, I'm pushing this doorway. I'm going to run out on the balcony. You have to be ready for it at all times. I think TSG just kind of got wise to it after they got burned, after they lost that first person. They're just like, we don't have to deal with it. Let Recited kind of peek to his heart's content. We're not going to peek. We're not going to peek him. He can essentially just be peeking air for all we care. And we will push in from another angle. And they were able to start getting those picks and isolating them really well, because Envy was playing so far and so spread out. And they had these people kind of running out in all different corners of the map. And it was just a good response from TSG Black there. And I think they read the situation really well, and they knew exactly the sort of aggression that we expect from Envy, because it's so prominent in all of their maps.
5 seconds left before
Another
insertion.
take at this Armory Archives bomb site.
Attackers are heading out.
This time, though, with quite a few changes. Not only do we have that visual and that orange, which enables a lot more roam potential, which actually looks like about the only things they changed. They don't have the castle anymore, which means that there are going to be a lot of angles that are going to be held very differently than they were before. But Recited still playing inside of CCTV with this Aruni, playing these long angles with this DMR, as that does still apply a lot of very good pressure. He just needs to be more careful to watch out for these lurks that they know TSG Black are willing to go for. But they do have those head holes on that armory wall, which makes that very difficult. Along with, well, Recited himself to get yet another opener, this time taking out Tox, as Kiru again just gets one on his own. The Monty, though, could be rushing into players inside of CCTV. It's not enough, as the fast play leaves Geek in a 1 versus 5 on his own. Sitting on the roof now, trying to figure out what his potential options could be to make something happen.
We got like a minute into that map, or that round. It was like a minute 10, I'm pretty sure. The clock was at 150 when that final kill there happened. That was just absolutely insane and the exact sort of thing that Envy does so well. And as we just saw with the last 2 rounds, sometimes it goes their way, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, you know. Man, what a round. I'm really enjoying all chat, by the way. It's very funny. I always appreciate when
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many
when the all
bombs as
chat
they
lights
can.
up. You get to see some funny jams. But I originally thought that leaving up Monty was going to be a
Bomb
mistake
located
from
by
Envy,
attackers.
but honestly, I think the fact that it was a Monty and not a Blitz in that situation really worked to their advantage just because of how different the operators are. Because Blitz is designed to run at you, flash you, and then shoot you in the back of the head. And Monty can still run at you and shoot you, but he doesn't have that ability to just flash you, which means that when Versided's in that situation,
10
1v1
seconds to
against
insertion.
Monty, there's no way that that player can just
5 seconds left.
get rid of his ability to see and fight back, so he has to win the fight.
Attackers are heading
Combined
out
with
to
the
defuse
fact
a
that
bomb.
there was
Defender has
a
been discovered.
crossfire set up by TSG or by Envy in that position, it just really makes Monty a lot less lethal. Check. Starting to see TSG clear some of the outer areas of the map here. They can poke directly at the site given that it is bathroom, but they can't really do much with it. Monty already having an effect on the drone economy and the player economy as well, as Versided's been so good in these pistol fights. Not able to win the second one though, as Tox comes in behind his back. But getting that Thatcher off the board does make the utility game more difficult for TSG Black. And just that ability they have to get in those early fights and win a lot of them means that Envy is applying constant pressure towards TSG.
Versided has been so good in those opening picks and just making it a completely inhospitable environment anywhere TCSG try and approach. But shutting him down is at least good. They're able to get a foot in the map, but that doesn't mean they can kind of rest easy. They don't have diffuser yet. You're seeing they have to run out here and get it, and they still are on the second floor. They still have to get to the first floor. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, and this rattiness that we're seeing out of these Envy players, that just constant peeking, the constant running around, is just kind of a death by 1,000 cuts, because it's draining you of all these little seconds here and there, and just completely drains the clock until you don't have much time to do a proper execute. But that's a great pick there onto Koshi as they get the drone, spot him out, and able to bang him through the wall.
Grenade out.
Keeping a player like that from getting activated, especially with how that second map plays, can be deadly. Tox, though, on a triple so far. Shut down, but there's an immediate refrag. Everything is left up to Kiru inside of the site now. He's been targeted by the Deimos. They know exactly where he is, and they have plenty of time to work this pick. As they're going to start using this utility, using this time, using this information to figure out where he is, and there's so much pressure being applied. They didn't even necessarily need to get the bomb down, but they're going to go for it anyways. But the track stinger, all that's necessary after that gunfight to shut Kiru down and secure a second round for TSG Black.
A good response from TSG Black there, in terms of how they handled some of that squirreliness, I like to call it, from Envy. Where, I mean, they're still getting punished by it here and there, but I think they understand that, you know, they fight fire with fire. They lose one of their own people, one of their 5, but they're able to leverage that into a position where they can then
Attackers need to
isolate
locate
said
and defuse
defender, take that defender out, and they can sort of continue that trend of, as long as they keep trading things out and taking more space, they're going to give the defense less room to move around. They're really going to start to suffocate them. So once they get that first pick, they get their foot in the door, they start spreading across the map, the defense becomes less and less lethal, and their ability to be ratty or to be squirrely or any other small rodent, marsupial, whatever you want, their ability to do that significantly lessens. And I think TSG are learning that, and we're going to have to see some sort of response from Envy come out here.
I'd like to point out that you
10
said
seconds
small rodent, then listed marsupials, which
I said rodent or marsupial. That's what I was saying. Is
Okay.
whichever small little critters you like, rodents or marsupials.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and
Well,
defuse it. Attackers have
yes,
dropped
that's
the bomb
fair.
diffuser. Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Understandable. Those shifters are fun little critters. You should look them up, by the way. People on Twitch chat running is always fun. I recommend starting with the Possum.
Great
If you're in
creature.
North America, that is.
Absolutely
Also,
incredible
go
beast.
look up a possum but misspelled on YouTube. By the way, there's some great videos. Same as Ferris. But back to the land of reality. Back to this game that we have at hand. We'll see if that squirreliness that Envy wanted to get across is something that can replicate now. Which so far,
Attackers recovered the
it
bomb.
is in this round as they get an opening pick and then immediately just reinforce off the wall. Try to, so there's nothing to come back to here. And they get that pick on the Deimos, which is something that's been used very effectively by TSG Black, along with taking out that ace. So now any sort of hard breach jobs are going to be much more difficult. Killing people jobs as well as Recited is on one this round, as Envy finally hit their stride again after struggling last round.
Recited is so dangerous when it comes to being here in security. I mean, the amount of times he almost always gets at least one pick, but often gets two just by playing the angles right is absolutely insane. And I mean, Roxo goes down, it's all going to be up to Geek. It's a 1v5 essentially. The defense intelligently kind of moving away, letting the defender have a little bit more room. You don't want to gift too many picks. You can gift one, that's Kiru. You can maybe gift another, but you start gifting too many, and that's how throws can happen. That's how 1v5s happen. So I'm sure we're gonna see Envy kind of hole up a little bit, let the clock run out, just at least a teens of it, because right now they're in a great position. I mean, they looked absolutely impenetrable on this round in particular. It's not been everyone, you know, it's 2-2 right now, but just really good stuff from how they were holding those positions, from how Recited was holding those positions, and oof. The double take on the Frost mat didn't even matter though, because Koshi's there to mop it up.
Yeah. But I think that's the most dangerous thing that Frost does is she just forces you into such bad situations when you want to jump into something like that. Like, do I look at where I know the gunfight's going to come from or the Frost mat that's going to send me straight to the hospital? And in that situation, choice isn't really made and still results in a death. As now, 2-2, things are perfectly tied up here. As we're seeing one very convincing round from one side, followed by another very convincing round from the other
Attackers
side.
need
And
to
it's
locate
been
and defuse
very, a
bomb.
lot more flip-floppy than I expected this second map to be. So it does tend to go attacker favored, which is contributing to a lot of this, as that is the side that TSG is on, meaning they're able to work things a little bit more easily. But what I'm interested to see is how this next two rounds go. Is I would say that if Envy are able to get a 3-3 or even somehow a 4-2 half, they've won this, as they can go on to that attack, where we know they're already highly proficient on a map that benefits it and benefits very aggressive attacks. So they can really use these next two rounds to stack the deck in their favor and really force TSG into a very
5
bad
seconds
spot.
to insertion.
100% agree. I mean, I think really the only way that, I look at this and I don't see Envy as having the slight advantage is if TSG manage to take the next two rounds. If they go up 4-2 into their defensive half, I think they might have something going for them. But otherwise, Envy, I feel like just gel really well with the attacking style that this map is conducive to. However, TSG looking to maybe bring some of that very attacking style. We are seeing that Amaru come out for maybe a quick, explosive execute up through a hatch maybe. So this could be the type of thing that could gift them one of those rounds, as it's certainly going to be a surprise. It's probably not something that Envy are expecting.
Repulsion device plan.
See if that ends up being the case.
Ready to push them out.
And I'm always interested to see how these kind of fast plays go. I mean, we've seen kind of the same ones play out a lot, but it is, I think, very good for the way that Envy have been setting up this site, provided they are able to work things correctly, and provided that Envy are able to read into it in time, which might be enough telegraphing going on here from TSG that Envy might know what's going on. Because things have been very, very slow here. We do see a run out come out from Recited, which is not unusual. As now we're going to see the Amaru get ready to go in. Slash gets that opening pick, but Roxo is still up while trying to plant the diffuser. And these defenders start falling one by one, or the attackers start falling one by one, before Geek manages to get two of his own. before Recited makes it a 1 versus 2. As now he has to contend with these two players, one off the site, one on it. Tries to go for that defuse, but the defenders, they can hear it. They know where he is after he gives his position away. And now he has 1 minute and 10 seconds to work the picks he needs onto these last two defenders.
This is certainly winnable for Geek. Not much HP, but 2 drones, so if he can isolate these fights, it can happen, but he's going to walk right into Owen there, and that shuts it down. There was a lot of little tragic things in that attack from TSG that just, like, a second difference, it would have maybe gone TSG's way. Watching Amaru go up the hatch right after looking away from the door down in ventilation, and then getting killed before even getting up through the hatch because someone walked in through that door. Just like tragic stuff. Real Rainbow Six Siege timing. But it's little things like that that just don't go your way, that just throw the whole plan completely off balance. And when your whole plan hinges on a sudden explosive execute, when one thing goes off balance, the whole thing just spins wildly out of control. And given our win condition for not just this map, for the whole series, Envy can no longer lose this half. The best that TSG Black can do is tie it at 3-3, but Envy can still take this next round, go up 4-2, and then, as we were saying, go on to what might be that favorable attacking side and really just close this thing out.
10 seconds to
I
insertion.
think the most interesting thing to me
5
about that
seconds
last
to
round,
insertion.
and it's something that you see Rush kind of kill a lot of rushes,
Attackers are heading out to defuse
is
a
that it
bomb.
was very, very telegraphed from TSG. The entire point of a rush is to go very, very fast and overwhelm the site. And to do so, you can't tell them you're about to do it, but with how much time TSG spends on those outer edges of the site just working things, it telegraphed to Envy that something fast was coming, so they rotated the bodies, so they were in better positions to stop it. He does almost get enough picks to pull things back on his own, but just
Defender
the
has
fact
been
that
discovered.
TSG weren't able to get it going quick enough is really the death sentence there. And like you said, Envy can't lose this half anymore, and especially if TSG lose this round, that's going to be something that is really going to be something they're upset about later.
Well, Recited is still in security room. Never mind. Slash takes out Recited. I was just about to talk about how I was curious to see what sort of strategy TSG was going to bring to essentially remove Recited from that room or get rid of him, because he was been so deadly and such a waste of time for TSG. But they clearly figured it out somehow. They managed to shut him down, but Boots is there to at least balance things out. So it's not easy. TSG aren't out of the woods yet. Tox helps him a little bit on that refrag onto Boots, but minute 30, still a whole round of Siege here to play.
There's still have Koshi left alive.
Changing
He was lethal on the last map. And he's alive again. That could be dangerous, but as I say that, Scarpin gets the better of that gunfight. Now it's Fury poking up these metal stairs. Most likely the next point of contact that TSG look to deal with, although he isn't really doing much from here. And as I say that, gets that pick onto Tox, goes for another one as well, but gonna fall off instead. Because he's just looking to distract these attackers, so his teammate at the top of East Stairs can try to work a miracle of his own. They know where he is now, and they're all looking to collapse on this pick, and they work it so beautifully. No, it's just left up to Kiru. 1 versus 3, stuck inside of West Bank, gonna try to walk up metal, but they're anticipating this exact walk up. He isn't even able to get one as Scarping gets that pick and ties us up 3-3 going into the second half.
Well, TSG probably breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief there as they managed to tie it. Of course, we think Envy probably has the advantage going in here, but we don't actually know for sure. And I mean, if we've learned anything, it's that Envy can look better, but TSG, you can't count them out. In fact, that might be one of their biggest strengths, is just when you think you have a round that you're going to be able to take over TSG, they're able to
Defenders,
claw it
protect your
back or
bombs
just
from
win
being
rounds that
by
they shouldn't
attackers.
have, or you're going to make a mistake and they're going to take advantage of you for making that mistake. So it still is anyone's game, even if the attacking nature of this map maybe looks like it might suit Envy's playstyle. We have yet to see how they're actually going to fare. It looks like they are hopping straight to that Monty, so we're finally going to get to see them use some real shield operators, not just the Blitz that we saw once on Cafe. But once again, we'll see how it goes. They're bringing that Dokkaebi. They always like to bring the Dokkaebi, and they're going to shut down flanks with the Nomad. So pretty standard stuff from them. But we'll see if they bring anything different when it actually comes to the meat and potatoes strategy in the map itself.
5 seconds remaining.
Deploying jammer.
Monty
Attackers are
being
moving
brought
out
up
to
by
locate a
Owen,
bomb and
so I'm
defuse it.
interested to see how TSG use it, since they're the ones that opted to leave it up, or opted to ban the Blitz instead, rather, since
Reload.
TSG could have banned it out themselves. Monty allows for a ton of great space-taking potential, and especially with that Flores that Recited brought out, he can really do a number on the utility game and open up some of these angles castles looking to cover.
Attackers have located a bomb.
That's a lot of space. It'll be very awkward for TSG to contest now that they're on the defensive half of the game.
Attackers recovered the
Drone
bomb diffuser.
activate.
Tread mine on.
It's been a pretty similar take so far. See, and then they're trying to isolate security. I mean, we know that Recited is aware of how powerful this position is, so it makes sense that they want to clear it, and that's a good way to start. Scarpin isn't dead, but is knocked out, and with the castle barricade shutting things out in security, it's going to be hard to get a res on Scarpin. Yeah, there it goes. I mean, that's the whole point of Green Slash. Unfortunately, he goes down right after he gets rezzed by that dock. Rather unfortunate timing there, but it was a good effort nonetheless. That Monty making solid work, pushing through kind of metal and making a lot of noise, just drawing a lot of attention his way, and that's exactly the whole point of Monty. So I really like what we're seeing from Envy, how they're recognizing the strengths of this map that they themselves are utilizing not 5 minutes ago, and then how they themselves are able to clear those things.
See some kills go back and forth as Geek has continued to keep his team in this game throughout all these rounds, and especially with Slash tagging on with that pick onto the Monty. Everything's left up to Boots here. Skulks his way inside the CCTV. He wants this fight on the dock, but Slash ends up being better in this situation as TSG take a successful first defense and start themselves off strong with a 1-round lead.
And it was a pretty solid looking round from both teams until that midpoint hit, and then TSG's just started to pull away. I mean, we had a lot of tight back and forth. It got to that 3v3 in terms of man count, and then Envy started pushing in, and it didn't feel like they maybe had as much information as they probably should have. I know that that's partially just because it's border, and you usually don't see as tight or as robust of an information network as you maybe get in other maps where you have so many drones and everything is droned out really carefully. We didn't really see that from Envy, even though they do like to do that on attack. And I think TSG was able to just kind of be in be in locations. They had angles that Envy wasn't aware of, like Monty getting shot from the back. I mean, you're Monty, you're supposed to be able to block all of the attacks, but they just didn't know where the attacks were coming from, and that really kind of spelled defeat for them, and they lost that round. So if they don't manage to change something, TSG are going to surprise all of us here, and they can just start to maybe walk away with a little bit of a lead.
5 seconds to go.
You know, things were pretty wishy-washy with whoever would take
Attackers are heading out to
any given
defuse a bomb.
round for the first little bit of this game. So I mean, it was really like that throughout the entire defensive half, if you kind of look at it. But we'll see if that trend continues on this second half. As if that is what comes to fruition, then we would expect Envy to take this, and we're actually going to see a pretty aggressive rush here with an Emeru applying some pressure off site, with a Monty being used in place of a Blitz. So we'll have to see how this ends up working out for Envy, as it is a rush that can oftentimes be very, very dangerous, and everything can start going now. Utility goes up all at once, but the smoke in this situation is exactly what TSG needs, and it's going to force another player to run into the site and get killed off himself. This TSG managed to find themselves up 5-3 here, and it's going to force Envy to slow down a little bit, start to reconsider their options, as they've abandoned the diffuser inside of the site here, which is a deadly position to try to recover from.
And while Amaru has taken a pivotal position up here, it unfortunately was just completely given over with no fight, meaning Amaru didn't get to acquire an easy pick with that shotgun just exploding through the window, kill a defender. So we are still at 5-3, as you said. This isn't a horrible lineup to have, as they have a blitz, not a blitz. They have a Glaz, I mean, who can throw down one more, or no, has no more smokes. But they at least also have that Lion to maybe use some scans. Boots does find a pick to start making things a little bit easier, and they still have plenty of time. So this is winnable, but it's just going to be really difficult because TSG aren't going to let this one go easy.
They certainly are not, as they continue piling on the picks to their own side. Boots on this Amaru in an impossible position, and he doesn't even get one. Everything is left up to Koshi here, who also doesn't even get one because Slash is better in that fight. And now TSG is starting to string rounds together early on their defense in a way that Envy couldn't.
Ooh, Envy, you gotta be getting a little scared now. I mean, it's a 2-point buffer that TSG have, and they are 1 round away from map and match point. It's kind of a big couple rounds here that are gonna decide the fate of Envy in the next couple minutes. But if I am Envy, I'm going back to the drawing board. Essentially, I don't want to play border attack like how they were playing it on defense. They can't be as unpredictable and as all over the place on defense. They need to go back to that really structured and methodical process that they were doing on the other maps, where they had so many drones. So they had so many different things constantly providing them information as to where these defenders are, that they could afford to be explosive and quick. And it wasn't just coming out of a confidence, it was coming out of a distinct knowledge that they knew this area was safe, and they knew that the attack or the defenders were in this area. I think they need to get that back, and hopefully we see them hop on some more of that utility focused or information focused stuff, but we'll see. They're bringing out the Dokkaebi, keeping that one, but nothing else really in terms of information.
Bringing out the Glaz again, with how that's gone previously, I'm a little bit worried. Although there's not a there is a spot to jump into this time, but there's not a bathroom to jump into. Gonna see Boots take an aggressive fight here over towards CCTV, but the defender's gonna fall off instead. It looks like the plan here for TSG Black is to remain aggressive, but still prioritize keeping bodies up, just to force TSG into a very awkward position. But Geek, who's been very influential so far, is going to fall first.
It's a big opening pick from Boots, most importantly because Boots remains alive and can drop that second logic bomb, which is just huge, given that, like I said, there's not that much else in terms of information. So those logic bombs are going to be key in terms of signaling to the members of Envy, hey, this room is safe to go in, this room isn't. And so right like that, they're already getting those smokes. This Toxic Babe's baited out, and it's 1:50 on the clock when that first one was thrown, which I think is really good for time economy. Normally you want to try and save those smokes for the last minute. So the fact that they're getting some of those out right now is pretty good. The fact that Recited finds that one is good. Scarpin answering back, Tox answering back. It's a little sketchy, but Owen managed to keep Envy on top.
Everything's left up to Scarping here. Still has one smoke canister in pocket, but the attack still has that shield. Gonna throw out that smoke canister and be isolated in 1 versus 1 with the shield here, but there is still that player on the hatch who's gonna fall down, and Kiru ends up getting that pick as well for his team, as they finally manage to stem the bleeding and secure an attacking round.
Like I was saying, it was a big round for either team, but for Envy, it's a proof of concept that they can mount a successful attack. They can undermine what it was that we saw TSG Black doing, and they can kind of flip it on its head, make it their own strengths. They did just that. I really liked how the Monty was being used there to kind of bait out this really aggressive counterplay from the defense. So we saw those smokes coming out so early, but the Monty wasn't full committing, and that was what was really big, is with the Monty not full committing, you're not losing that player You're not sinking a bunch of other utility in to try and save the Monty or make up for the Monty going in so quickly. You're just baiting out the enemies. And with a map this small, it's not hard for Monty to very quickly get into positions where he can start baiting out that lethal utility. You don't need to waste a minute or a minute and a half getting up to the site and having everything cleared. Border is so tiny that Monty can just like walk up to a doorway within the first 45 seconds of a match and just start kind of poking and prodding, baiting out bullets, baiting out locations of defenders, baiting out the toxic babes. And I think if Envy can keep harnessing that quality from Monty, I think they can continue winning some of these defenses.
Setting a mine.
Yeah,
Or
the map
attacks.
hasn't really gotten as much value, I think, as they would have liked. And especially when combined with a Dokkaebi, he should be very, very lethal on a map like Border, but so far that hasn't really been the best. Right now, seeing the view chamber, Hulk boots his progress by just a little bit, as he wants to get this pick onto Scarping, but that doesn't come to fruition just yet. As we're seeing, again, a lot of leaning into this castle here from TSG on their defense, which is blocking off a lot of these angles that normally would just be afterthoughts from Envy, which effort has to now be put into being able to open these up so they can work them.
Absolute huge blunder from Scarping there, just showing his back to an open wall. And it's Boots to take advantage of that. That's a great opening pick. Luckily for TSG Black, it is Castle. Castle's barricades were all set down, so you're not losing a bunch of utility in the dead pockets of Scarping, but still, that is lacking man advantage. That is going to make it a bit easier for Envy to start taking control, but not if they throw like that with Tox doing a great run up to shut down the Monty.
Yeah, I'm confused there was no one with him there when he tried to make that entry, since it's really the only thing that you can see of him is the back, but ends up being good for TSG Black. As now we see Envy slow things down a little bit as they look to figure out exactly where people are, try to start using them as effectively as they can. So now we're seeing Kiru as he gets that pick onto Slash. Gonna try to find more on the site here, caught in a little bit of an awkward angle. Tox, he's doing so well for his team, but he's shut down eventually. Geek is left in 1 versus 2 now. He knows where Koshi is, just about. And that's going to be the next fight he wants to take. Let's see, looks to try to find Kiru over in the CCTV position. It's been so influential for TSG Black so far. Can he carry this last round? Get the map and match point, secure the 6-3 lead. This could be exactly what they need. Bill's position with that shotgun shot. Start trying to make that C4 hole as well, so he can use the little bit of utility that he has, as the attack only has 30 seconds left to make this work. It's not a ton of time. Start opening those walls with the ace charges. Start worming their way around. It looks like Kiru's gonna hold a cross. Koshi plants SMG-11 so bad at these long-range fights, as now we see him have to go for the C4, but Kiru's on that cross, as Envy set up the execute with the 2 people and work it to perfection and lock TSG out of match point.
A real delicate operation there from the remaining 2 members of Envy, where they realize that they have man advantage, but if any operator is an operator you don't want to count out, it's an SAS operator in a clutch. The Mossberg shotgun, the SMG-11, and specifically with Mute, a C4, it's just one of the most deadly combinations of close range, long range, and then splash damage, explosive stuff. So great use of time there. They didn't have much of it, but they quickly and quietly rotated around, got that cross coverage, got into a situation where they could safely bait out that C4 and force the Mute to move up. Just a beautiful closing bit there, especially since the rest of the match, while favoring Envy, it kind of did go to hell in a handbasket in the midst of the execute on site, where everything was just crazy. People were dying all over the place, but ultimately really like how Envy kept their head there and played it cool. No surprise that TSG are taking their time out, because Envy's managed to tie things up, and we got some really important routes here. We're looking like we might go all the way on this map too.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by
It certainly
attackers.
does appear like it's going to be the case. And if I'd imagine, and I would imagine, obviously not from being inside the comms, but I would imagine that there was a little bit of discombobulation with the communication from TSG to prompt that kind of timeout, as they have been very good in these 2 rounds that Envy have won at sort of getting
located by
the
attackers.
advantage that you want to win the round. But then when it comes to carrying that over the finish line and securing the win, they haven't been as good in this half. And so that's kind of the thing that you want to
5
stop
seconds to go.
as early as you can. Especially since we know that Envy
Attackers'
have the
objective
star
is to
power
defuse a bomb.
to just start absolutely wrecking house if they need to. And if someone like Hoshi comes online again, or Boots comes online again, or Recited starts to come alive more, that discombobulation becomes infinitely worse. So they want to nip it in the bud as soon as they can.
I like the presence of Brava here. Gonna go in, gather information, start turning stuff kind of against the defenders themselves. Once again, as I was just saying, I think what would work really well here for Envy is more information. That's exactly what the Brava is gonna bring. I mean, Monty himself acts like a big drone. So I think they have a solid amount of information. They have a solid operator lineup here to be able to open things, provide coverage, flush out people, deny lines of sight. I think they have a lot of good stuff here. It's just a matter of making sure they can get all of it used efficiently. And for instance, clearing out that Mozzie is potentially good for, yeah, as you're saying, if you're going to read this could be a big rush here.
Plant already going down from Owen. First pick goes to Boots on that Brava. They now secure the advantage of that plant going down. And they also secure the man advantage as well, as all of these defenders are felled one by one by one. Everything left up to Scarping as he tries to run towards this west main entrance. If he can find anything but Recited on that glass, can see through the smoke. And that's everything that Envy needs to secure a dominant 6th round and get themselves map and match point.
Envy's previous rush didn't work out so well. It was one of their first on defense, and they ended up kind of flopping. But they went back to the drawing board, they drew up something new, and they made sure that they had their information right. They knew where to be looking, where to be blocking, and where to be covering, and it came out perfectly. I mean, a pure flawless round. Plant down, Monty on top of Diffuser, in sight, shield up, covered by a glass with a smoke. I mean, it doesn't get much more of a walk in the park than that when it comes to holding a post plant. It was super easy for Envy once they had gotten in there, and I think it was just a perfectly read situation, and those are the kind of rounds that win Siege. When you're this close in ability and you're going, blow for blow, when it's this tight, those rounds where you just catch your opponent off guard and just kind of eke out a round all of the sudden are going to be what put you up and allow you to win.
So I've just gotten some information from Nomical, who owns this league, or was one of the owners for this league.
5 seconds left.
Chat. Whoever wins this game gets 2 points. And since both of these teams
Attackers are
are
heading out to defuse a bomb.
on 8 points right now, that means whoever wins this game goes into double digits. Now, whoever loses does still get 1 point, I believe, unless I'm misunderstanding that. But the opportunity to just get yourself into that situation where you're double digits in points does take a lot of pressure off of your back. Both of these teams are going to be playing like it, but especially TSG Black in this scenario, since they are the ones fighting from that back foot, as we're going to see them defending this bathroom and teller's site.
Got kind of a double shield setup going on with Osa and Monty being brought. We have flank coverage being provided by the Nomad, and then Overwatch being provided by Glaz, who's going to be able to peek over those shields, who's going to be able to smoke everything off. So it seems like there's another pretty distinct plan that Envy have and that they're going to execute on. And their distinct plans sometimes fall apart, but sometimes can prove out to be really, really strong. Well, I'm curious to see how this one's going, as this is definitely sort of quiet right now. Envy are taking their time, clearing everything out. I think TSG are just playing a little bit more reserved because they don't want to lose it, but Boots is able to walk in. He has the read on Slash, and that's a big opener for Envy.
There's another one down on the floor as well. That's Geek. And there's one in an easy position to try to refrag him right now. They are going to try to get him up here, but Recited is able to kill another one as things go from bad to worse for TSG Black. Boots lurking around this 90 hall, looking to see what fights he can get and locking these defenders out of any sort of flanks to help their teammates. As now combined with that Monty over towards the site itself and the minuscule amounts of HP both these defenders have, everything is looking so horrible. It's all to Geek to freak in a 1 versus 5 here to keep his team alive in this game. He manages to get the first one onto Boots, but there's still 4 more he needs to find, and they know exactly where he is. Gonna rotate around, try to see if he can find it. But they're not gonna give it to him, but yes they are. They're gonna give him one fight. That's Recited going down. Try to get the C4 on another one as well. Nomad air jab goes off. He tries to rotate around, open up a hole. Try to get away. Trying to find these picks with this shotgun, but he has such low HP. He needs to be so careful, and Kiri takes advantage and presses. And that's Envy taking the game 2-1.
When they needed it most, Envy decided to lock in. Those last 2 rounds that we saw from them on attack were some of the cleanest that they had this entire series. Excellent looking stuff from them, where they were really methodical. They had the rooms cleared out. Their information was perfect, but they were also fast. I mean, they really were hitting that perfect mix between having information and being strategic, but also that aggression that they are so good at. And it's ultimately what I think made them the better team, obviously on Cafe, but then here as well on Border. But an excellent showing from both teams, if we're being entirely honest, who both really look competitive and are demonstrating why they are at that 8-point scoreline in terms of tournament standing.
Now 10 points for Envy since they did win that game 2-1. So congratulations to them. But also congratulations to TSG Black for just making that as close of a game as it was. Even though they didn't win, just putting up that kind of showing against the team with the pedigree players that Envy has. That's a result that they can take and go into the next games with their heads held high. That being said, though, that's it for us to Blitz here tonight. We only had one game. Unfortunately, we didn't reach that 11 o'clock on 11/11 as we were kind of hoping for it because it would be kind of a fun thing to see, but you know, doesn't always happen. That being said, though, from all of us here at Blitz, have a wonderful night.